Hello and welcome to the SuperShow podcast for this, our 1 year anniversary edition.
Woo!
Yes!
Woo!
Da, 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 da,
52
da,
weeks,
da, da,
boys.
da, da.
And you know what? We haven't missed a single episode. How the fuck have we managed that?
It's called a pandemic and everyone's at home.
Oh, yeah. We haven't left the house in 12 months.
For the most part. I mean, there was that one time that I went to Greece, but whatever.
Yeah, you know, we adapted, and that's what good podcasts do.
Exactly. So, yes, we have been going for an entire year, and I can't believe it, 52 episodes with these two mugs. I'm talking about Jamie and Jonesy. How are you fellas doing today?
Oh, do you know what? Other than the fact I can't see Jonesy's beautiful face, which I usually can, and it brings me, unorthodox amounts of unbridled joy, I'm pretty damn good. We're approaching Christmas. It's my favorite time of year. I can bust out the Christmas tunes. I haven't eaten any Christmas-related food or snacks yet, but I mean, obviously, I'm looking forward to that soon. It's a good time to be alive.
I had pigs and blankets for lunch, so I'm happy.
So you're already on the Christmas food?
Yeah, dude. Why not?
Just a plate of pigs in blankets?
Yeah.
Wait, no, what? Really?
Yeah, but what? It's even worse than that, fellas. I then cut up little duvets of Gouda cheese and covered my pigs and blankets in the cheese.
I mean, Gouda.
That sounds like a nice way to eat pigs and blankets for cheese, but it's also just that they're an accoutrement. They're a side dish.
Dude, not when you're eating 16 of them. All right.
You should see me on Christmas Day, my friend.
Fair enough. Yeah. All right. Well, Jamie, you kind of mentioned it, but we cannot see Jonesy's face because on this most auspicious day, this most important recording in Super Show history, Jonesy decided to bab up his camera. So, hey, you know what? Yeah. You should have the recording of it, so the edit should be fine, but we can't see him, so we can't react to any funny faces that he may be pulling right now.
I'm not sticking my fingers up at both of you right now.
No. Okay. Anyway, I'll tell you what, Jonesy, seeing as you've babbed up your camera, why don't you explain to people who may be tuning in from the first time because they saw our provocative title and thumbnail what our podcast is all about?
We are primarily a gaming podcast, believe it or not, and we like to give out some hot takes and trash opinions every week of the year, boys.
I love it.
Which is why we're up to number 52.
Indeed we are.
And yeah, this is the last one of this year before we do a cheeky little special edition of this. But I guess when the new year rolls in, and then we'll be starting all over again.
Oh my God, yeah. For season 2. Do you guys reckon we go to episode 53 or do we go to season 2, episode 1?
Oh, God.
I think year 2. I think like year 2. We call it year 2.
But then I think we're going to get halfway through the year and we're going to regret having extra things to put in our titles. Like, it's hard enough to find new people anyway. And now anyone's going to look at it and be like, oh, I'm a whole year behind.
I feel like we just changed the branding a little to add something into it so you know that it's year 2.
Well, that's what I'd like to do. That's what I used to do on ATG, or I tried to at least. But yeah, hopefully, a little bit of a graphical refresh could do us well. And, finally get our hands in that merch pile and maybe reinvigorate a little bit of our Patreon. But anyway, guys, let's do some house cleaning before we get into the cyber news today. Yes, that's right, because Cyberpunk is still a dumpster fire, and we will get into it, and very gladly look forward to that one. But if you are watching on YouTube, then we are also available on a podcast platform of your choice. I'm talking Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, fucking Ding Dong Radio. I don't know, all of these fucking things. And if you're listening on a podcast platform of your choice, we're available on YouTube. If you just search youtube.com/SuperShowPod.
Yeah.
So there you go.
I haven't watched the YouTube in weeks ever since I downloaded the Ding Dong app, actually.
Yeah, the Ding Dong app, yeah.
If you're not listening to us on Ding Dong, where are you listening to us, really?
Yeah. For those people that don't know what Ding Dong Radio is, it's all your favorite podcasts, but at the same time that you're listening to the podcasts, it's just a big flaccid penis that just kind of flaps just kind of side to side.
Nice.
Do you know what happens every single week, right? When you have to upload this to YouTube, there's a thing in there that says, does it have any adult content in the first 30 seconds? And every week, Chris does or says something which just always makes me question that. I'm like, did it go over? Was it within 30 seconds? Does it break the rules?
It definitely
he does it on purpose.
It definitely is within 30 seconds, but
he starts talking about penises and
we do a bit of
ding-dongs and...
Yeah, we do a bit of fibbing in this channel. But yeah, you know.
Oh no, we earned $1 less in revenue.
Jesus, if we get $1 per episode, we'd be fucking lucky.
do you want me to tell you how many dollars we earned for the last episode?
Yes, please do.
Sure, it was bumper for us. We got $11 for the last episode.
Whoa! Bumper episode.
We are breaking the bank, boys.
Oh my god.
Yeah. $11. No, not breaking the bank. We're breaking even. No.
No, we're not. That's
I mean, that pretty much covers our appearance fees, right? That we usually charge whenever we go on anyone else's
yeah,
podcast
totally.
or anything like that.
At this rate, I'd pay people $11 to invite me places because I'm really lonely and I don't have any friends. Anyway, guys, we are also on Paisley Radio, which is an internet radio of sorts. If you go to your web browser and type in paisleyradio.com on Thursdays at 10 p.m., you may or may not be able to listen to us. It depends on your sound settings and, if you're wearing headphones or, I don't know, maybe you mute your laptop or PC, whatever. Anyway, we're there on Thursdays, so check it out. Now, guys, before we get into Patreon, whatever, let's just bring in a news story which marries maybe the most interesting release this year with maybe one of the most interesting releases of last year. And I thought
you were going to use that as an excuse to slam it then. I was getting ready for no.
Well, interesting is not necessarily a good thing.
Here's another way of putting it. The game Jonesy didn't think would be his game of the year last year with the game Jonesy originally thought would be his game of the year this year.
Oh, there we go.
That's a really long-winded way of saying that,
yeah. Well, we're talking about Cyberpunk 2077 X Death Stranding. You know, when they do all these collabs, it's like X.
When did the X thing start? Where does that come from? Like cross or X?
I don't know.
Is that an
like
anime
multiplied
thing?
by? I think it's a multiplied by thing. I don't know.
I think it probably originated like some Japanese collabs, probably between some anime or some shit. I don't know. But anyway,
if there's a Wikipedia article about it.
Yeah, maybe. But anyway, yes, Cyberpunk and Death Stranding are teaming up for PC players, I believe. I don't know if it's on console as well, but there is a bunch of new stuff coming to Death Stranding. You can get Johnny Silverhand's hand and sunglasses coming to Death Stranding, as well as some face cybernetics. Am I saying face properly? It sounds weird.
I think so. Face.
I just don't think I've said the word face in about 2 years, so maybe
what's your favorite Nick Cage and John Travolta film?
Face Off.
Fassi Off.
Fassi Off,
yeah.
Yeah.
Don't say Fassi, Jonesy. Fassi is something else entirely, my friend.
What's the thing from Scrubs? Fasse, beard fasse.
Oh, beard fasse.
He keeps beard, Dr. Beardface, and then he goes, "It's beard fasse, damn it."
Yeah. But in Death Stranding, you'd be pleased to know that they're also skinning the reverse trike to look like that nuclear-powered Yiber bike from the... you probably would have seen it from the special edition, but there we go. And patch 1.05 also sees new missions featuring cyberpunk characters and lore. It's kind of interesting. I wouldn't say that it makes the most sense to do this crossover, but then again, like the crossovers in Death Stranding never made any sense anyway. So
yeah,
fucking
and like I don't know if we're gonna say it for spoiler reasons, but there are other reasons why a crossover might exist, and obviously. Let's just say, prior to the release of the video game Cyberpunk 2077, CD Projekt Red and Hideo Kojima did have somewhat of a public sort of, admiration for one another.
Canoodling, I believe the word is.
Maybe. You know what? A bit of trivia. I actually own Death Stranding on PC as of like a month ago, so I could theoretically check this stuff out. I probably won't. No, but
I thought you were looking for an excuse to jump back into Death Stranding, though. I mean, never mind the fact that you don't necessarily have the time.
It's true. That's actually why I bought the PC version, was because I thought if I do go back to it, I don't think it's officially received a PS5 patch, so I wanted to play it at 60 frames a second and so on and so forth. I might still do that. Depends how 2021 pans out, and based on 2020, I don't want to make any guesses.
I just love it if they did the crossover more the other way, right? Where at the end of Cyberpunk, it turns out that everyone fucking dies from the third fucking explosion or some shit like that.
Yeah, the Death Stranding.
Yeah, exactly.
The cataclysmic event.
Death Stranding actually comes to Night City. That would be pretty cool.
I was still hoping that it was all part of like a viral marketing scheme for Metal Gear Solid 5. And do you remember the thingy was V has come too. That was what they said in the trailers. V has come too. So I was like, oh, what if it's all part of it? Like Cyberpunk is actually Metal Gear Solid 6 Silent Hills.
Oh. I mean, probably not.
Crack the code, folks. National Treasure 3.
Yeah. But look, speaking of Death Stranding, Kojima Productions had their 5th year anniversary celebration as of the day prior to recording and 2 days prior to the...
That seems mad. That time's flown by.
5 years
Crazy,
does seem mad,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
And in that time, they released one boring game.
What? That is outrageous.
That's my opinion. You can't tell me otherwise.
Nah, fair enough.
But yeah, I just kind of
boring.
It's weird because they hyped up this kind of thing like, oh, be sure to tune in for some special announcements for our 5th year anniversary. And everyone, I mean, probably wrongly so, but everyone thought, okay, tease for whatever's next at Kojima Productions. And you would have thought it would have been a perfect opportunity as well, right? Like, Death Stranding has been out for over a year, I believe.
Yep.
Yeah, over a year.
Yeah.
Just a good time to kind of say like, hey, even if it's just a logo reveal, which I know Jonesy absolutely loves those logo reveals, but it would have been a nice kind of thing. And instead we got, no, look, this is how we took the BAFTA award from the BAFTA Awards back to our offices. Cool.
Right.
Actually, before Jamie and I watched the Game Awards last week, I actually made a little guess that Kojima Productions might do a little tease or something during the Game Awards, because I was like, it's been about 18 months or so since
and Jeff
Stranding
Keighley
came out.
And
it seemed about right. It seemed about the right sort of time to sort of just tease something.
Yeah, right.
Something. But no, nothing there, nothing now.
Also, if you think about it, so Kojima Productions, they took a long time kind of like choosing. So their first year was like, oh, we got to choose a fucking engine and we got to build these tools and this, that, the other. That shit's all done now. So now it's just make another game. They
have to be working on something, surely.
Oh, of course, dude. Well, you think they're gonna have a whole office full of people and just fucking twiddle their thumbs, adding in some Johnny Silverhand's arm in fucking Death Stranding for the entire year? No.
Yes.
Oh yeah, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, it's an interesting time for both Cyberpunk fans and Death Stranding fans. And I say Cyberpunk fans if there are actually any left. So, yeah.
Oh, yikes.
Oh,
and
hey,
there are plenty.
I'm a Cyberpunk fan. I will happily admit it. But yeah, there's some shit going down, which we will be talking about pretty soon. But before we do that, guys, I do want to mention something, okay? Because Cyberpunk has not been performing well on PS4, but it does perform a lot better on PS5, right?
Yes.
But that's if you got your hands on a PS5, because as we all know, scalpers have been sending out bots in probably the most Cyberpunk side mission story that ever was to meet our reality, and sent out all these bots to take up all of the stock. Now, interestingly enough, here in the United Kingdom, some Scottish MPs have tabled a motion to stop scalping, which is, nice to see a government response.
Yeah, like, I don't know about you guys, but it's weird, like, expensive technology, and from what I gather, it happens in other markets as well. I know that a lot of sneakerheads have come forward in the past 6 months and been like, hey, you guys don't know what we have to deal with on a regular basis. But to my sort of, virgin ears to this stuff, I feel like I've never seen anything like this, in terms of just the sheer volume of scalping going on, the extreme prices these products are being posted at online.
Okay, but hold on, because surely you know what happens with Yeezys.
Oh, I see. I know it happens. I didn't foresee it being quite this bad. And obviously, like, the UK situation's been weird because stock hasn't actually come that regularly. But I think it was Best Buy in the States that had stock sometime in the past week. And
yeah, they had a big thing, but they also said that they'd done stuff to stop scalping.
But didn't they still sell out in 10 seconds or something like that?
Yeah.
And hey, that might all be genuine demand, but it's kind of crazy. So seeing the fact that someone is trying to do something about this is kind of encouraging, even if it is. I've got the article up in front of me. It's, as Chris mentioned, it's 6 MPs from the Scottish National Party here in the UK and they have tabled the motion to basically introduce legislation to prohibit the resale of gaming consoles and PC components at, quote, prices greatly above the manufacturer's recommended retail price. So it's less of an anti-scalping thing and more of an price hiking scalping.
Yeah, I think it's a fairness thing.
Because that obviously removes the point of scalping, right? So because if you can't make any money on the units, I
don't think they're saying, hey, that your MSRP or your RRP needs to be exactly the same. But as an example, I've got another article here that says PlayStation 5 scalpers made more than $19 million on profit through the console via eBay. All right,
crazy.
With the digital edition reaching over 350% MSRP. So that's probably what
I think this is smart. This is smart to me because they don't have to. It doesn't take any technology. It doesn't take any sort of like clever third-party kit that you need to put on your website in order to prove if like recaptures and stuff to prove if it's a human. Or all it says is, hey, you can scalp the hell out of them, but you can only add like 10 quid to the price. And you only have to get to a certain level before they'll turn around and say it's not financially worth it, so we're just not going to bother.
Yeah, well, that's the hope, right? But I thought it was. I just thought it was interesting that it's, the people in charge are taking note.
Well, they've done it already, right? They did it with tickets for gigs and for stuff in the UK already. Yeah, because we had a real problem with especially I think it was music gigs were some of the worst, where scalpers would buy all the tickets and then go to resale sites and then resell all the tickets, and it was horrendous. Yeah, so it's good.
I think sporting events as well, like football matches and what have you.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
It makes sense. I think it's just encouraging when you hear, MPs and politicians in any way doing something that sort of relates back to stuff that we're interested in, especially in the field of video games, and trying to understand stuff from our perspective. Like it's nice to know that some people still think about that stuff and are at least trying to get that stuff moving. Because
do you know what I love about this story though is because I completely agree. I think it's great. I love that they're doing it. I absolutely guarantee this is 6 butthurt people that couldn't buy PlayStation 5
probably for their kids.
Xbox. Probably I reckon it might be for them because some of the SNP MPs are quite young, I think, relatively speaking.
I wouldn't
be surprised at all.
But while it was brought forward by 6 MPs, the early day motion has 21 signatures.
So interesting.
I will say because it gets left out, but we should flag as well that they've also included in that technology like hardware. So because of course the NVIDIA 30 series graphics cards have also been plagued by this and are impossible to get hold of. At this time.
Yeah, but I wonder if that's... You see, I wonder with that if it's less about scalpers and more about like crypto miners. I don't know. Do people still buy fucking GeForce cards to crypto mine? Is crypto mining still a thing?
I don't know. I haven't heard anything about it for a while.
Yeah, it seems to have kind of died out.
It's because it gets the ability to mine the next coin gets exponentially more difficult every time.
Yeah.
And it takes exponentially more power. And you end up getting to a weird point where the power that you need to run the machines exceeds the amount of money you can make by mining a coin.
Yeah.
So it gets like the next bit of currency. So
I'll tell you what, ridiculous. Though, Bitcoin is looking pretty healthy at the moment. For anyone
it is. We should have gotten Steph on this action and he could have given us the Bitcoin connection.
Actually, when Bitcoin originally kind of crashed end of 2017 through 2018, it got to a low almost exactly 2 years ago, being worth around £2,500, and it's now worth over 14 grand. So you could have 6 or 7 times, like multiplied your money by 6 or 7 times if you'd bought 2 years ago.
Yeah, you also could have lost all your money depending on how
you also could have lost.
Chris and I every year.
It's a bet.
Every year, Chris and I say we should buy Bitcoin.
Yeah, just pull our funds together. And funny enough, we were saying it's probably like since 2017.
I mean,
2016 even.
Let's say for the sake of argument that you had decided to say invest in Bitcoin in, I don't know, like let's say like earlier this year, for example. You could have pulled your money together. There was Bitcoin got hit a low of £4,209 on the 13th of March. So you two could have pulled together. I'm not going to speak for you, but if us three had pulled our money together, we could have certainly bought a handful of Bitcoins in March of this year, and we would have comfortably quadrupled our money, if not more.
That's
So
amazing.
okay, this might make me feel sick, but I owned 100 quid's worth of Bitcoin.
Yeah.
When is this? So this
How
is
much? How much of a Bitcoin was it though?
Oh, not much. So I owned. It was a tiny fraction. I owned £100 worth. No, 50. Sorry, £50 worth of Bitcoin in May of 2019. I wonder how much it's gone up since then.
May of
Probably not
2019.
much.
But then here's the thing: in May of 2019, a Bitcoin was worth £5,558. So if you owned £100 of it, like you would have owned so.
What, 550? Yeah, so like a fifth.
0.1. No,
that's
no,
all right.
it'd have been like 0.02 of a Bitcoin, wouldn't it?
Oh, a lot less than that. 0.0007.
Oh, what? What am I
something.
thinking?
can't remember.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I'll
Basically,
take it. I'm glad that I'm not.
Yeah, like your £100 worth of Bitcoin would be worth like £300 now, maybe a bit less.
Thank God. If it was worth like 20 grand, I would have cried.
No.
Well, look, I'll tell you this much, Jamie. Even if I had the opportunity to have bought that Bitcoin, because everyone technically can have the opportunity to buy Bitcoin if they have the money, I didn't have the money, and I still don't have the money. But you know what's kind of helping me along not having money is our very generous patrons. You're probably going to be seeing a few names that you haven't seen before because the fellas and I decided that, you know what, seeing as it is our 1 year anniversary, we want to show off all the names of every single person that has helped us throughout the year. We are so grateful for every single one of you. You help keep the dream alive and you help us come back week after week. So we're all here because of you. So we are thanking you, and you should give yourselves a pat on the back. And if you would like to join this prestigious list of amazing people, then head on over to patreon.com/supershow and, go check out our tiers, because $2 gets you access to our Discord, where we usually are there kind of chatting away. We've got a nice little community going on there. $5 gets you some additional content. So we've got some podcasts that are behind the Patreon exclusive, if you will. And yeah, just go check it out. But in the meantime, we do have some names to call out, fellas. Are you ready? Because these are the people that are maybe my favorite people of all time.
Wow.
Yeah. Definitely over you and Jonesy. So.
I was going to say, that doesn't surprise me. Yeah.
All right. Now, of course, I'm talking about AIM, Aaron Cameron, Athletic Gravy, backstory for anal beads. That's okay. Cool. Brett Z, Haxel Book Reed, Jesper Camdal Nielsen, Javela Cujo, Leo Merger, Lonnie Thompson, Martin Skihan, Mindful Pig, Nathan Piers, Scary Omen Games, Sean Kennedy, Slippy Meat?
I think it's Slipper Meat.
Did you Slipper Meat?
Yeah. I reckon it's a say-so.
I'm starting to feel uncomfortable here. Starfall Kid, and then we're talking about the big fellas. Freddie K. Official, Manuel Guerrero, Peaswad, and the Dude Abides, also known as Left Bicep, Right Bicep, Left Testicle, Right Testicle. Thank you so much for all of your pledges, guys. I've said it before, and I'm going to continue saying it probably till the day I die, when SuperShow has been shut down by multiple governments and corporations for bringing the truth to the masses. But we are eternally grateful for all of your support, and we never thought that we'd get as much support as we are getting today. So we can only thank you so much.
Least of all, that support would still be dragging us over the line, kicking and screaming a year after we started. It's kind of mad.
It's mad. So I think we are almost double the amount of episodes that we did for ATG Super Show. I think we did 32 episodes, because I remember being kind of like feeling okay about ending it at 32, because it's like 32-bit, as geeky as that sounds. But
what a weird reason to be okay with it.
And then we fucked it, because we did a 33rd episode to tell people that we are doing a Super Show channel. So yeah, there you go. But anyway, I think it's cool. I never would have thought that we would have gone this far. Well, no, I did think that we'd gone this far, but realistically, I didn't think it would pan out.
Yeah, but now it's one of those cool things where it feels like once you commit to something for a year and you can prove that you can make it work for a year, the possibilities become almost endless for what you can do going forward. And I wonder if one day we'll be one of those really cool podcasts that's on like episode 572 or something like that. That would be wicked.
Really cool, or real?
Yeah,
really, I don't know.
Well, you know what the thing is? I think that's
Still
entirely
doing this in
possible.
a decade's time, like wicked.
I think it's entirely possible, but if we're still getting the same amount of views as we're getting, I think I might be a little bit disappointed.
Yeah, but that's not what we do it for.
No,
Also,
I know.
for you, it'll be okay.
I was about to say I would do this for free, but then I basically have done it for free for an entire year. So, like, yeah.
We see, and you say it'll be okay to do it in a decade's time. Yeah, you'll still be in your 30s. I'll be like looking down the barrel of 50.
Oh my God.
Like, going.
Jesus, yeah. It will also be weird because in some respects, like, you guys, in terms of, you know, your adult lives, everything's somewhat in place, if that makes sense. Where if I am going to experience some of the elements of adult life which I am yet to experience, I will have, you know, I'll have to do them. I'd like to do them sooner rather than later, I guess. So then that would be a weird thing, like being on a weekly podcast while you're going through shit like getting married or having kids or whatever.
Yeah, it would be interesting. Man.
No,
yeah,
I can't be at the birth. I've got to go do a podcast.
Unless either of you two have another one planned. I mean, no pressure,
so.
But that would be a great podcast episode.
in the hospital.
Yeah, live.
Screaming in the background.
Live from the delivery room. You know what's interesting is if this does go on for another decade, then my son will probably be old enough to be really embarrassed that his dad swears on a podcast on the internet.
Yeah, you'll actually have to stop swearing just because he'll be too old. You'll be like, I can't do it.
Well, here's the thing. My parents listen to this podcast, and I spoke to my mom on the weekend. I was like, please don't listen to this fucking podcast. I talk about my testicles so much. It's very uncomfortable. It's very uncomfortable for me. So, Mom, if you're listening,
turn it off now.
Just don't. Just don't.
For a second there, Chris, I thought, going back to what you were saying about, you know, kids and that, I thought you were going to say doing this long enough that you pass the baton down to them, and like it ends up being just I'm the old one, and it's your guys as kids on the podcast talking about games.
That would be quality though, wouldn't it? Because we could bring them on for like, I don't know, in a decade's time, whatever the Fortnite or Minecraft equivalent is. It's like, hey, tell us about Fortcraft, the Fortcraft review, you know?
It's weird to think, like, because in a decade, my eldest will be like about 15. And
Jesus.
He like legitimately would be able to play anything, right? I don't think at that age there's nothing I'm going to say that's too old for you. Like,
yeah.
I remember what I played, and that's weird because to think that he could be into streaming or doing whatever. Well, not necessarily, but maybe may want to get in that sort of stuff. It is like, what will they be playing? What will the games be? What will they be?
I was telling you guys earlier that I was listening to a podcast maybe a week or two ago with a guy who, during the lockdown, so basically between March and now, had gone from, I think, 100,000 subscribers to about 3 million. And he's 16. Like,
that's crazy.
You guys need to start not grooming your kids to play video games, but, you know.
Please don't say grooming kids, dude.
What's a better word for that?
Preparing?
No, I'm going to stick with grooming, actually.
Wow. Okay.
You guys need to start grooming
mine doesn't need
kids.
Mine doesn't need to play any more games. He's already obsessed.
Okay, let me clarify then. You need to make sure he's good at them, and you need to make him like entertaining, a lively character in front of camera.
Do you know what? I will say his memory is on point. So he can't read, right? Because he's learning to read at the moment. But he started playing Pokemon on Let's Go Eevee. He started playing 2 weeks ago. He knows like nearly every Pokemon by sight. And it's those little pixelated images of the Pokemon in the Pokebag, and he can tell you all their names, and he can't read. So he'll say, that's a this, that's a that, that's a this. And
that's
you're
quality.
Like, how do you know that? So he now wants the Ben 10 game for Christmas.
That's because kids' minds are sponges, Jonesy. They just fucking soak everything up.
Do not buy him the Ben 10 game.
I wasn't really intending to. But.
Like, because Pokemon's a solid start, right? He's learning his JRPG fundamentals, okay? You know, like little bit of item management about like, you know, turn-based strategy and so on and so forth. Just incrementally. You buy him something like Ben 10, he's going to go backwards.
Yeah,
you need to start ramping up.
His entry game was the Bakugan game that we had.
Oh yeah.
We've nearly completed it. We've nearly finished it, and that was actually a really good entry into like the Pokemon style of game because it's much more simple.
Yeah.
But Pokemon's actually been quite a good one. But he's also played Miles Morales. He's only allowed to do the swinging though.
Here's an interesting question, Chris. I wonder if you can shine something like this, and I'm actually genuinely curious. Right? at the moment, you look at the current sort of world of esports and the way it's sort of developing at the moment. I think theoretically, if you wanted to make the most money you could by being the best at any one game in the world, the most money you can make would be in Dota, right? Simply because of the size of the international prize pool.
But hold on, because this is where it could get interesting, right? Because,
or is that not the case?
Well, it is the case. It is the biggest prize pool in esports, but that's only across one.
That's the thing.
Competition. And it's like, what are the odds of getting into that competition? There's only, I think, 16 teams that get invited to, or that qualify for the international. Whereas
it's also team-based, right?
Yeah.
So that's another thing as well.
Whereas if you look at maybe a game like CSGO, even though the prize pools are a lot less, there's still a lot more going on throughout the year in terms of prize pools and whatever. But
I guess what the question I was going to ask is, what would be the game you would start to train your children on now to give them the best possible chance of making money in the future? And let's assume that, Call of Duty is going to continue as a series. Overwatch has got Overwatch 2 on the horizon. That might have legs. I don't know.
It probably,
or maybe even just a genre. Like, would it be MOBAs, RTSs, like hero-based shooters like Overwatch and Siege, or just Twitch-based shooters like, Counter-Strike?
Right. Okay. Don't take this the wrong way, Chris.
Yeah.
But I would say it would be better to err more towards a game like Dota 2.
Yeah.
Because that, I think, is about being smart, tactics, technique, etc., but it's less skill based as opposed to something like because it's less down to sort of like the ability to move a joystick quickly and accurately, which I think is often down to innate ability. Is always going to come down to that. You're
talking about reflexes?
No, not necessarily reflexes, because your ability to move a joystick accuratly and quickly.
Who's using a joystick in the pro FPS?
No. If you play maybe not, but if you're playing even if you're playing with keyboard and mouse, you've still got to try. It's still down to.
I am thoroughly offended, dude.
There's a lot of almost like more athletic ability, if that makes sense.
What? More athletic ability?
There is, because it's an innate, almost like more sporty kind of thing. Where say like chess, a game like chess, you can just be. You don't have to react quickly and precisely, but you need to be really good at.
Okay, so then you are talking about reflexes.
No, because there's no reflexes in chess.
No. So, but yeah. Okay.
So what I'm saying is, in Dota, right? In Dota,
yeah.
I imagine that you could get ridiculously good at that game because it's more like chess. You could get insanely good at that game, knowing technique, tactic, counter moves, what to do if someone does this.
But chess isn't real time. Chess is turn based.
Yes, what I'm saying, I think games that are more associated with
Dota 2 is real time.
Yeah, but chess actually is real time. You've got a time limit. You don't have to act.
Only not in all versions of chess.
In these echelons we're talking about, where you make money.
Sure, yeah.
It's time based. But what I'm saying is, in a game like Dota, I can imagine that you could win a lot of games based on tactics and technique.
I will tell you this right now, Jonesy. I would wager that as a all-encompassing thing, that Dota 2 requires a lot more skill than CSGO.
It depends what you mean by skill. I would say there's
you don't across the board.
I would imagine that you could practice your arse off at Dota 2 for years.
Yeah.
And you could always end up learning enough that you would become a very competent player. But I think there's people with CSGO that are never going to be able to do it. Because you just can't get it. You just don't have the physical attributes in your body to be that quick.
You know what?
Just disagree.
I know what Jonesy's trying to say. I'll put it that way.
I just said what I'm trying to say.
No. What I mean is, I'm not going to say I disagree, because I think I understand on a fundamental level, like where it's coming from. The issue is, I don't have enough hands-on experience with the high-level play of either of these two games to be able to compare. But I think what Jonesy's saying is that with whether it's CSGO or Dota 2, there's obviously at the high level of either game, there's a huge amount involved in terms of like awareness and memorization. And tactics and being able to react quickly, for example. But when it comes to sort of like because of various factors like time to kill and so on and so forth, when it comes to, let's say, an opponent doing something unexpected and having to react, in CSGO, you might have something where you have 0.02 of a second to flick your wrist and get a headshot and nail a headshot with a certain weapon on a certain enemy moving at a certain speed. And there's no one-to-one equivalent of that maybe in a game like Dota, where it's more of like, okay, Dota's equivalent of that is adjusting your tactics and your maneuvers in a split second. CSGO is doing something in a split second. And you either fail or succeed in that split second.
Yeah, I mean, I can get that as well, but I
exactly.
I still have a hard disagree on it. But anyway,
I'm gonna sit on the fence because I don't want to offend anyone.
Well, saying that, I will then say, but you probably find, I suppose you could argue that in the same way that Dota 2 is harder to be like the best at, because you'd have to be insanely smart and bright to get to the very top echelons of Dota 2, whereas in a game like CSGO, you could be as dumb as a rock, but you might just be good at getting headshots. So there's obviously something gives on both sides, but I don't know. I would wager
I think
if you
on
had
both
to train
sides,
your kids.
I think on both sides you're being quite unfair to the skill required.
No, I'm not. I'm saying they're different. I'm saying skill is the wrong thing. Technique and tactics, I would say, on the more like the strategy game, the MOBA game, and then it's skill as opposed to like talking physical skill attributes in your body as opposed to like a CSGO or a Call of
Okay, but
Duty.
hold on. When you say attributes to your body, what do you mean? Like how fucking strong your index finger is? Like
how quickly you can move your wrist, how quickly you can see something happen in real time and move your.
I've got to be careful here because I know there is sort of like a regional element to this, and some people from different parts of the world end up being different body shapes to others. But I feel like pro FPS players are fatter than pro MOBA players.
Yeah, but that's nothing to do with the fingers.
Do you know what I mean? Like you look at the Call of Duty Pro League. Like, there's a lot more fat dudes in that than are winning the international. Because
let me give you an example.
I'll give you a real world guys that eat 50 bowls of rice and don't gain a pound, and you're like, the cards are stacked against me. I can't win.
Let me give you a real world example of why I'm saying this. Because I went to school with two now insanely famous sports people.
Yeah,
and
you did.
Specifically one of them who I was friends with and I knew quite well.
I don't know if James is going to say their names, but one of them is literally the best at the world and might be remembered as the best of all time in this particular sport.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. He spent, I'll say who it is, it's Lewis Hamilton, right? We were in the same class at senior school.
It's mad.
He spent an insane amount of time practicing. Like his dad had him practicing constantly, right? I always remember he just practiced like it was insane.
Yeah.
This kid that's all he did was drive go-karts and then bigger cars and then Formula 1 cars since the entire time I knew him. So from the age of 11 to the age of 18, he just lived and breathed that.
Yeah.
If he didn't have the innate ability that he had, he never would have got to where he's at. And I feel like no matter how much time you spend, so the UK is a good example. The amount of dads out there forcing their kids to play football, who are never going to be in the England squad. They're never going to play for Arsenal. They're never going to play for Spurs. Whereas you could say to your kid, don't do football, don't do something, a sport like that. Go and do something else, which is more technique, and you could probably go further.
Yeah. I agree with that, and that actually would lead to my answer to Jamie's question. Would be. Obviously, if they want to go for any kind of esports, then fucking let them. But it would probably benefit them more to be a content creator around their favorite game, as long as that favorite game was, say, like, let me put it this way.
That's a good shout.
I think you have a better chance of having a successful career as a Fortnite content creator than you do as a Fortnite esports competitor.
Can I go one further and say, potentially, like from a percentage scale, from potential point, there's zero chance that your kid is going to be the best at anything.
Mate, you don't know my kid, all right?
No, I'm not talking about you.
No, I know what you mean.
So I would agree with you completely. It's much better to learn a skill based around what you love and do that, as opposed to go, I'm going to be the best in the world.
Plus,
you're probably not.
Because if we've learned anything about content creation in almost a decade of working in and around it, is that you do not have to be the best at anything to be famous for content creation.
No.
Or to make lots of money doing it.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, look, I'm gonna use it as a cheap segue, but we're talking about Dota 2. I played some Dota 2 on the weekend.
Yeah.
Woohoo!
New patches coming out. By the time this goes out, live, the new patch should be out with a new hero. So I still don't know what the patch is or who it is, but it's a big patch. It's one that Purge will probably make a 6-hour patch breakdown video, which then I'm going to have to fucking watch at 2 times speed. And God damn it, I wish there was a 3 times speed, but there we go. But
you download it, speed it up.
Yeah, exactly, in the edit. But that's not the only thing that I played, because I have obviously been playing some more Cyberpunk 2077. I'm now at about, I think I said 17.6 hours into that game. Kind of a good mixture between, side content and main content. I think my stance on Cyberpunk hasn't really changed that much. I'm still enjoying it. I still think the main aspect, the main mission of that game suits it very well. I still don't see why it needed to be a open world. Still think it would have made a better decision to be hubs, as it were. But as I'm playing it, more and more it's becoming apparent what is missing. We'll cover it in a bit, but talking about like the AI and the things that were kind of promised and that you were kind of sold on. I even went so far as to go back and watching all of the reveals that they've had through the E3s and the Gamescoms and what have you. And
you've got a lot of years to cover.
Well, not really, because they didn't actually release that much stuff, right?
Yeah, they didn't start. They didn't start up again until E3 2018, and even then it was drips and drabs in terms of what got publicly revealed.
Fair enough.
But yeah, it's just kind of interesting. It's just like so. A couple of things that stand out is like you can't change your appearance, like your physical appearance. And I thought that was like a main component of the game. So much so that when I created my character, I'm playing as a female V, I created her quite like plainish. I didn't go very outlandish at all.
I did the same thing. Actually.
On the basis that you would be able to change it later.
Yeah, dude, because I think about like Witcher, like fucking change Geralt's hairstyle, right?
That's the fucked up thing. Like Geralt is a fucking authored, predetermined character. You don't get a say in his appearance or his personality or anything. And you can change his hair and his beard. And
was it The Witcher 3 where his beard grows while you play and then you can... Was that Witcher?
No, that was Red Dead Redemption.
I think The Witcher did that as well.
Oh, right.
I remember
Red Dead was the one that took it to the extreme, obviously, where like you can only get hair and beard cuts based on how long it is at that point in time. Yeah. Like you can't regrow hair in Red Dead; you have to grow it naturally and then get it trimmed.
Yeah,
yeah, but like stuff like that, the fact that you're meant to be moving up in Night City, like starting from the bottom and moving up, right? But you can never upgrade your apartment.
Yeah,
so you're always stuck in this.
You can't even put stuff in your apartment.
Yeah, and I could have sworn there was this one thing where you walk into your wardrobe and you can pick out your clothing and shit in one of the demos that they had, and that just never fucking materialized. Like, I don't know. A bunch of stuff is missing. Obviously, the AI where the cops just fucking spawn. The traffic AI is absolutely dog shit horrendous, and it drives me absolutely insane every time I have to drive a car. But,
Yeah. So, but beyond being horrendous, it's almost non-existent. It feels like.
I will say it's almost as if they went out of their way to make it counter AI.
Oh wow! Okay.
It's like, what's the dumbest, most annoying shit we can program into these cars to do? Oh yeah, that's right.
It's AS. Yeah, it's AS. Artificial stupidity.
Yeah, it is AS.
But then I feel like it's almost like artificial stupidity would be cars veering off the road or like driving into you and so. But they don't.
Yeah, they do.
That's exactly what happens.
But what I mean is they don't like veer off the road and do crazy turns and unpredictable speeds. So like they stick on their routes, and that's the issue. And like there have been clips that have come out where a certain lane of traffic's pathing has been fucked up to go through an object, but every car is driving and clipping through these objects in the exact same way, and debris flying everywhere, and they're crashing because there's no thinking in the driving. They just go on a path, and they all they know is stop if you stand in front of them. Hopefully.
They don't.
No, I've been run over multiple times.
And immediately get out the car and crouch if there's an explosion, leading to very, very funny gifs where someone's created a traffic jam and got 50 people all getting out of their cars in exact sync, and it looks so stupid.
Yeah, but even to the fact of like just NPCs around the world kind of seem to be non-existent as well. like I know last week I said that like it seems like a Bethesda game, but even in Bethesda games, you play your Skyrims, you play your Fallouts, there are NPCs dotted around the world that you can actually have conversations with. They don't need to always lead to a mission or anything like that. But there's nothing really like that in Cyberpunk, unless you go to one of the story hubs, like the Afterlife Club or whatever it is. It's like, really what you expected from a game like this is for there to be multiple nightclubs that you could go into and you could just start interacting with people. But the interacting with people is kind of, I can see what they try to do. They try to make it like more organic and automatic. But in doing that, it's almost non-existent. It's a weird kind of thing. But yeah, Jonesy, you must have been playing more Cyberpunk as well, right? So
I think I've played about the same amount that you have. Interestingly, I've kind of maybe come the other direction a bit. Like I've really enjoyed the last, say, like few hours since the last podcast, more so than I did the previous.
Just to jump in, don't get me wrong. I feel exactly the same. I still love the game. I think it's a fine game, and I think if you even like the amount of I've gotten more bugs, that's fine, but nothing like super game breaking. But I would. It's still a game that I could recommend to people, with the caveat, say, on PC, and as long as you're lucky enough to not have a completely broken version. But
see, it's funny because I agree with a lot of what you said, and when we'll go through some things that CDPR have said soon, but. Weirdly for me, one of the main problems with the game, I'd agree with what you said there, aren't necessarily the bugs. They are the elements to the game which simply don't exist. Or you can, the worst part about it is you can see that they were supposed to exist and have then been left out. Totally. So as you were saying about NPCs around the world you can't interact with, so you can interact with anyone you come across, in that you can often talk to people and they'll make a comment, which I really like. I like that, for example. And there's a lot of people just wandering the streets.
Yeah, but there's nothing in between though, right? Because you walk past someone, you say interact, and the guy says, "Oh, fuck off, you fucking normie," or whatever.
But interact, you mean you press A or X or whatever it is on the mouse and keyboard.
F.
They give you a blank stare. They look through you. They say one line, and then that's it.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you pull out a gun, they'll start to look like fucking NPCs from 2007. Put their hands over their head, sprint away, and if while they're sprinting away, you turn 45 degrees to your right, then turn back to the way you're looking, they'll have disappeared. Like the AIs don't exist in this world. They're NPCs rather. They're I don't know. They're like cardboard cutouts with one line of dialogue each.
Yeah, but they you can see how they were supposed to exist, because you have those kind of base level NPCs who you can say one line to and they'll say one line back to you, and that I think is fine. The fact that you can eat that there's that many people is good, but like you said, they are dumb as anything. You then have people on the map who are like little green circles, which you're obviously supposed to be able to interact with to a greater degree, and there are a couple of them in the world.
Yeah.
The problem is, it's like they've left in a load of those little green circles and people that you can't even interact with. Like they're obviously supposed to have more options. So one of the things that jumped out was this world is a like hedonistic, like there's prostitutes everywhere, there's sex shops all over the place. It's like a very kind of crazy world. There's one female prostitute and one male prostitute who you can bone. That's it.
And people were saying, like, I haven't boned anyone in the game yet. This is ridiculous.
I boned the one female prostitute. But you can't do anything. You can't do anything else with anyone else. You can't watch the BDs in the game, the brain dancers that you can acquire. It was going to be the fact that you could actually play them as like a source of just entertainment, and they were going to exist in the world.
Yeah,
that's been completely taken out of the game. Like you can only do BDs as part of main or side quests, which is crap. Like you said, Chris, the fact that you've got your apartment and you've got a clothing rail, but rather than be able to see yourself putting stuff on, it now has a little menu that pops up with take this item, but which is redundant because you have a stash right next to it which contains all your stuff that you don't want to carry. Ripper docs have had all the animations gone. I mean, you definitely were going to have animations for each thing you had installed. I cannot see a case where they weren't going to do that. That's completely gone. But then, so you get all of that stuff, which is like sort of breaks the world a little, breaks the immersion because it becomes superficial. But then you get the driving is serviceable, like you get from A to B, but it's not really that enjoyable.
I don't know, dude. Yeah, the driving's not enjoyable at all. Also, like little things that annoy me, like, okay, give me a fucking. It's stupid, right? It's fucking nitpicking here, but give me a hooter. Give me the name of the radio station that I'm listening to just on the HUD. Give me the name of the song, or like just It just feels like every single point in this game, aside from the main mission, because I think the main mission is super on point, and for a large degree the actual main side missions as well. But I just feel that like everything is just so underbaked in the game. Like, just add more, layer it on more, and you know what? Then it would be like fucking this messiah of gaming. But it's not. You know?
But that's what's so weird is because you get that whole sort of like dodgy side world stuff.
Yeah.
The world looks amazing and it's full of stuff and it looks great, but you can't really interact with it. You then play. Like, I've been playing loads of the gigs where they're not even side quests. They're like minor little things to make a bit of extra money.
Yeah,
and they're well thought out.
Yeah,
they're little stories in their own right. You have to go to a place, you have to do a mission. It could be, so I just did one recently, which was go to a building, sneak into it past all these gang members, install a virus because you're trying to knock out a computer server for a client who wants this done. I just had a guy whose dick nearly fell off because he was
I've had that one.
He used an add-on, which he was trying to bone this mechanical add-on, and it like nearly cut his cock off, which funny. Is.
Oh
hilarious.
No, I had the one where he had a penile implant that starts going haywire and he just starts vibrating everywhere.
I don't think I've had that one.
Oh, it's quality, and you have to drive him to a Ripper dock to get it taken out.
Oh no, that's the one I was talking about. I thought it was like a weird kind of what do they call them? Fleshlight. I thought it was like a weird mechanical fleshlight.
No, you got a
Was it an implant?
A mechanical ding dong.
Oh right. I must not have been paying attention. But then you've got that stuff, which is great. Like, it's so odd and cool and adds like flavor to the world and is engaging. And you can attack those missions in loads of different ways. You can fight, you can hack, you can.
I think that approaching the missions, I don't think they do enough to allow you to go various paths.
I disagree completely, man.
Wow.
I approach even the gigs in so many different ways from one to the other, and I've done them where, and you can see the paths as well. I've had a few where they fail, but like I had one recently where I had to go and get a guy's eye back because he'd lost it playing poker. And,
nice.
I snuck in the back of the building, got into their computer terminal, found out that they were doing dodgy stuff, then went in the front of the building and then blackmailed the guy. Whereas I could see that actually I could break through a door, steal it. I could go and threaten the guy and kill everyone and get it. Like, there were so many ways.
Maybe it's just
I could
the missions that I've been coming up against. It's literally like one of two ways of getting into an area. And the one area is usually locked off by what level your skill is. So let's say if you're hacking or whatever, it's like, oh, you have to be this level to hack. So the only other choice is to go to the front door and fucking shoot this dude.
I always remember with Deus Ex, like the classic example was like, yes, they present a situation with limitless possibilities, but usually it amounts to you've got a conversation with a speech check that you could be high enough to pass. You've got a door with a security system that you could be high enough to hack. You've got a vent that you could find and stealth your way into, or you could shoot. And it's like, yes, those are options, but they're also kind of the same options that you present. Oh, like, I'm 50 hours into this game, and here's another area that mysteriously has a small vent at the back of it that I can sneak into.
But funnily enough, Jamie, I think that's more options than, from my experience, that's more options than Cyberpunk gives you.
Maybe I wouldn't. Well, I think there are a lot of people who that should probably try one of those last two Deus Ex games if they really like Cyberpunk.
Yeah,
but there we go.
But I would say that it is that sort of stuff, but at the same time, because those are the gigs, which are they're not even like the main side quests. They're just do this to get cash. I'm quite impressed in those because they could just have said, like a lot of games go, here's a fetch quest. Here's a fetch quest. Yeah. Go and take this to this person. Go take this to that person. And it's not that.
But what you're just saying it's not that because you have a choice in the way that you fetch the thing you're fetching.
No, because they're written and they fit in the world and they make sense and they're. Well, I could be wrong. I'm only 17 hours in. I'm only in Act 2.
It feels like a lot of people take games they don't like, and one of the reductive things that a lot of people say about games when they don't like them is, every mission is go here, kill someone, come back. And it feels like some people are doing mental gymnastics to try and pretend that a lot of Cyberpunk's content isn't that too.
But it's not that.
Because you have an option, because you can stealth.
No, because you can stealth.
You can stealth or you can talk.
But that's like I don't know how many options you want, but you can say, let's say, for example, you need to go and, like I said, you need to put a virus into a computer mainframe, right?
Yeah.
But there's only so many ways you can do it. Like, I don't know how many
But
ways
you're still going to a place, doing a thing, and going back. You can still be reductive about it.
Yeah, but that's life.
Yeah, but I'm saying, why aren't people...
You can say that dinner,
why aren't more
work,
people
playing sport,
but I'm saying every time
time
someone is reductive about the loop of a game, I'm always angry about it. But I'm saying, why aren't more people being reductive about Cyberpunk? Like, a lot of people,
I see.
A lot of people criticize GTA and now aren't criticizing Cyberpunk, when Cyberpunk learns more lessons from GTA 4 than it does from GTA 5. In fact, maybe even not enough lessons from GTA 4.
I just find, though, the whole Cyberpunk thing is really interesting, right? Where the hype for the game built it up to this impossible standard, and any negative news, people were fucking pitchforks in the air, burn it to the ground. Then the game comes out, and it's undeniable the state that it's in. And now all of a sudden it's like, no, you have to hate Cyberpunk.
Yeah,
and
I'm not sure how.
And it's this really weird kind of like time of life that I know I've said it before, and I know people might think I'm joking, and maybe I'm just psychosis is starting to take over, but it's like we are fucking living in a simulation where shit. This is the only explanation for a lot of the shit, not just Cyberpunk related, but it's just like, come on, dudes. How is this a normal thing? It's not. It's not a normal thing at all. It's not a normal thing that we don't learn from past hyping up of games. It's not enough that we don't learn from the pre-order debacle. It's not enough that we don't learn that a company that is in such high esteem drops all the way down to the bottom. We don't learn about the fucking death threats to devs. We don't learn about crunch. We don't learn about fucking billionaire investors and stakeholders that don't give a shit about you as a player and just want to get a game out in time for Christmas. And then at the same time, in an investor call, they'll be like, oh, why did you release it in such a buggy state? It's like it's just like this kind of like cloud of mass hysteria that we were all just kind of getting into.
Man, Vass said it best. Insanity is doing the same thing again and again and expecting a different outcome.
Man, I tell you.
Yeah. Nailed it.
I got to be honest, the last week has felt like insanity. Like, it's weird that this time last week we recorded our podcast and but here's I'll put it into perspective this way for you. So last week when we recorded, I remember I ended up doing a bit of a mini rant about Cyberpunk.
Yeah.
And I finished that podcast nervous about that rant. And I listened back to my recording of it to double check everything I'd said, and was refreshing the comments the day the podcast went up, because I was like, I'm going to get chewed up for talking shit about this game.
Yeah.
And like
you were on the side of the audience at that point.
1 week later, you get chewed up for saying shit that's too positive. Like not in certain circles, like our Discord, for example, not to plug it, but it's a very friendly place where everyone is enjoying or not enjoying Cyberpunk at their own pace and having very civil discussions about it. It's all very nice. Some people on our Discord are loving it. Some people refunded it already. That's great. But Reddit, Twitter, it's the fucking Wild West, baby. Like,
I think but that's the nature of the beast, right? All those platforms, I think they either go hard one way or hard the other, and it's not just games; it's everything. You cannot have a nuanced opinion, not least because, of course, on Twitter you have a limited number of characters. But I think the problem is that people want to seem like they're relevant or they have a hot take, and you can't have a hot take like I often do and sit on the fence. Like people just get,
I think that's it, Jonesy. It's like, especially we know from being content creators on a social media platform, it's like, hey, you want your voice to be heard with your opinion, but you also know that the algorithm only favors extremist opinions.
Yes.
And we for all our talk about hot takes and trash opinions, and they are hot and they are trash, but they are kind of, I would imagine, to be quite centrist. And that
probably,
and that doesn't really, like, okay, we brought him up last week, but the quartering is fucking far on the one end. And say what you want about him, guess what? The fucking algorithm loves him.
See, no, well, I don't think the algorithm does. He sort of fights it. He sort of has an audience that fight against the algorithm.
Mate, let me tell you, if the algorithm didn't love him, he would not have a channel. I'll tell you that much straight away.
But see, I almost don't agree in the sense as well, though, that I think channels like his do quite well in that they don't have to be that crazy one way or the other. they just shout loudly about like an opinion.
Maybe that's what we should do. We should just start shouting
get an
everything that we
illusion.
say.
And you kind of get an illusion about that these people are making really kind of like really big points one or the other, but actually they're just saying it in a sort of in an over the top way.
But my point is this though, is as Jamie said, like you can't have a nuanced opinion, and I think you can, but it just never shows up in any kind of social media because a nuanced opinion does not favor an easy reaction, so therefore an algorithm will ignore it.
Absolutely, yeah. I feel like every opinion I have is nuanced, and no one cares.
That's why, in some ways, I genuinely, as cringy as it sounds, sometimes this podcast feels like a real like privilege because we all, I'm sure, not just us three, but the people listening have the same thing where like we play a game or we read a news story about a game or something like that, and your brain can't help but race, and you form your own opinions, and you have things you want to say.
Yeah,
and
totally.
Like my only other option, for example, if I didn't have this outlet, would be to shout it into the ether, and then it would be this weird thing where like I wonder if there's a limit on how long people are willing to talk to no one, and then the next step is, well, what if you start replying to people and replying to tweets and started to make sure that your opinions started to reach people, and what if they reached the wrong people, and what if your opinions were taken to unhealthy.
And then you get cancelled.
And then you get cancelled. Yeah, exactly.
Well, I'll quickly say I'll quickly say about Cyberpunk because I know there's a lot of people listening to this who will be thinking, like, do you like it? Do you not like it? About the three of us, I really like it.
Yeah.
On the whole, I really like it.
On the whole,
I think, it is a fundamentally fantastic concept of a game, and if it was in early access, I think we would all be saying how amazing it is.
Yeah.
I fundamentally disagree with the idea that it's great on PC and that it's broken on previous gen, because that's not true. It's broken on everything. It's broken on PC, current gen, in the sense that it's got huge parts missing.
Yeah.
It obviously was supposed to include a whole lot more elements. Some stuff doesn't work very well, and that stuff carries across. It is awful on previous gen consoles. Like it's apparently I've played it on PlayStation 5, not PlayStation 4, but apparently it's unplayable effectively.
But you can play it on PlayStation 4 gen, so you should just fire it up and try it out.
I should. I've got a base PlayStation 4 actually upstairs.
Yeah.
I could probably plug it in and give it a go and
try it out.
see how trash
quite
it
good.
really is.
That would be quite fun content.
Yeah, that's your
Maybe
homework.
I should stream it.
Oh, you should stream
shall I
it.
give it a go?
You should stream.
I'll
That'd
stream
be quality.
And make sure I don't install the day one patch.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like it is a game that if they fix it, I think would be like it could be my game of the year, and that is ridiculous in a lot of sense.
What would you want to see fixed that you think could plausibly be fixed based on what they did to The Witcher 3 over time, which was like, hey, yeah, we changed the sort of the input latency for Geralt's movement, and we reorganized the inventory system. Like, talking about some things that we were mentioning earlier before we started recording, they're probably not going to, I don't know if they can completely rework the way that police AI works. I don't know if they can.
I think they can.
You think they can?
Yeah,
I actually think
the way sorry,
can or will?
About specifically this police AI thing. I think what happened is they were working on a police AI. I mean, this is pure speculation, but how it would seem to me how it's implemented in the game is that maybe at some point they did have a police AI that they just couldn't get it to work in the time. So what they did is they took that police AI out and they instilled this really dumb AI of like, hey, just fucking spawn them in because we don't have a solution for launch. That's how it seems to me, and I think it's literally a case of just swapping them out. I mean, at its most fucking reduced, like a fucking like a jus instead of a gravy.
But see, I agree with you completely. However, in my mind, that is a year down the line, because in my mind, like they've said, and we'll cover a few things. They've said there's a patch coming before the 21st. This month, then there's a patch in January, a bigger one, and there's a patch in February, a bigger one. But I don't think I don't think any of that stuff gets addressed to the degree that everyone wants it. I think it would just be made a bit better. So, for example, the reason you get cars pop in and pop out so like or spawn right near your location is because someone did a Reddit video, which is quite funny, where it was like deciding which car to steal, and they just turned around, and every time they turned around, there was a new car behind them. The reason that works is because they're like trying to save graphical processing power by saying, if you're not looking at it, it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So the cars disappear, you turn around, the game respawns a car. The problem is, in the real world, of course, that means that the car's a different fucking car. So it doesn't work. I think you're right with the police thing. I don't necessarily think they can fix that or integrate a better system by February, but I think that might be a longer term goal.
Interesting.
I
what
think
worries me though is the next gen versions, because they've said they're going to release next gen versions when they're ready, and to me,
that'll be the end of next year.
End of next year. Probably. I was hoping for March, but now I'm like, there's no way they do this again. If they drop a PlayStation 5 version and a Series X version, it's not really good.
Let's consider this, right? What they need to do is fix the bugs first and foremost, which is what they said that their focus is. And interestingly enough, they mentioned that the AI they classified as a bug. Okay.
Yeah.
Should we? Okay, I'm going to be brutal. Should we pause this conversation and really quickly speak to ask Jamie what he's been playing?
No, it doesn't matter enough.
All right. Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah. Maybe at the end of the fucking conversation. But yeah. Okay.
Let's just keep the Cyberpunk train rolling, baby.
Hell yeah.
All right. Okay. No.
So
cool.
Look,
Yeah.
they got to take care of the bugs first, right? Then once they've taken care of the bugs, they've got this existing group of people that encompasses, if you remove whatever platform they're on, it's more a case of the players, okay? So what they need to do is bring in some stuff that the players need rather than platform-specific stuff. And
you mean, sorry, when was your time frame for that?
I don't really have a time frame, but let's say bugs first, okay? And part of the thing that they were talking about in terms of bugs is also focusing on previous gen PS4 and Xbox. Okay, so fine. So that's coming first. That's what they've confirmed is coming first. But then, to my thinking, they need to then focus on improving the experience for existing players, regardless of console. And I think that's where we might see some rejigs of inventory system and inputs, etc. Quality of life stuff, maybe a few bells and whistles here and there. Then they're probably going to go for the next gen patch, and then after that they're probably going to go for a content patch, adding in stuff that probably didn't have time to make it into the release.
DLC at some point, right? As well,
I think people need to stop worrying about DLC, because
The Witcher 3 had DLC expansions about 6 months after the game came out. For perspective, that would put DLC for Cyberpunk on the same timeline in fucking June, which now it seems impossible now.
But it's also not just that. It's it's all of the stuff that they have to do for Cyberpunk far outweighs what they had to do for Witcher 3, because
I agree.
On how many platforms they need to get it working on, how deep the problems go, and addition of the next gen thing, etc. So I think really what people, the conversation should never even be bringing up DLC at this point. That's my opinion. Because
I agree.
Because it's pointless. It's like saying, oh well, it's okay. It's like BMW releases a car without any doors, and then someone says, oh, I really hope they have an engine revision. It's like, hold on, that thing doesn't have any fucking doors. I
don't know. I kind of feel like the DLC could still get released inside of 6 months, because they've now said that from what they've said, by February, the previous gen console versions, which is what they're focusing on at the moment to get those playable, stable, and optimized for those generations, they've said that's going to happen by February. Effectively, that's what I've taken from their release.
I know what you mean. Like February, we know that February is the last month they've confirmed a big patch for.
Yeah,
but to quote them, referring to the patch in January and the patch in February, together, these should fix the most prominent problem gamers are facing on last-gen consoles. So they're showing, this is a company that, you don't want to base their track record on patches too much on their track record on the game itself, but if they are comparable for whatever reason, they're talking about, hey, by February, the previous gen versions of the game should be better.
Yeah,
I'm reluctant to take any confidence from that at all.
No, I agree, but I think all we've got to go on at the moment is Because they had 8 years.
Exactly. All we've got to go
They
at the
intended
moment
to release
is one of the worst AAA game releases of all time in terms of performance and bugs.
Yes, absolutely.
Like, where's the confidence coming from?
There's no confidence.
Jonesy,
there is no confidence. I'm not suggesting confidence.
Okay.
I'm not suggesting confidence.
Okay.
What I'm saying is...
So you're not suggesting confidence, but please continue to tell us why DLC will arrive in June. Mr. Vast, the definition of insanity, is expecting things to be different when the same things happen over and over again. Tell me why DLC is coming out in June.
Because I think what they'll do is they've said that they have a strong, to quote them, team working on patches at least until February. Okay. So in my mind, that is that they're still trying to hold to some kind of calendar because they've already got dates in their minds of when this is going to be fixed, that's going to be fixed. I do not think that because I don't think they would have fixed all the problems by February, but I could imagine that what happens is they've already got most of the DLC stuff, the story side, what they want to do. I think they've probably already got a team who've done most of that, obviously nearly finished it. And they're thinking, bugs will be squashed by February. We can still follow our schedule. And I wouldn't be surprised.
You think there's a team in there that's almost finished what, sorry?
The DLC's got to be like already.
You think that Cyberpunk?
done.
You think this game came out as hot as it did and was delayed as late in the day as it was, and there was a team that was sitting around somewhere making DLC for 6 months down the line, like with their feet up?
No, not with that. I don't know, mate. I think they were already starting the work to do it because this is what gets me.
I think they definitely know what they want to do.
Stuff.
No, yeah,
there's no way that they haven't done anything.
I'd say they know what they want to do for their DLC, but it's a question of whether they've started.
And like there are members of staff, like story writers, for example, they could have been doing some stuff because a story writer's not going to help the game be any less buggy on release. But I think the idea that any like hard real work has been done on the DLC at this stage is far-fetched.
Sure, but if you say that the DLC is going to take them a year, I bet they've already done half of it.
I don't think it's going to take them a year. I just don't think they're going to release DLC. I think it's a bad look for a game to release paid content when the thing you've delivered so far that most people have paid money for isn't in a good enough spot.
Yeah, totally.
And for as much as like there is some optimism out there, what I read in that statement is that, hey, January and February's patches are largely going to deal with the fact that if people are playing this game on a base Xbox One, which it was primarily designed and developed and marketed towards, it was one of the primary consoles it was marketed towards anyway, runs at less than 720p at the lower end of the variable resolution and as low as 10 frames a second. If they can, by some miracle, make that somewhat acceptable by 2021 standards in 2 patches, one in January, one in February, then fair play to them. Great. But I don't think they will. I don't think they will either. So I think that's why people expecting the PC version to dramatically get better, I think they're going to be disappointed. I think people who think that the acknowledgement that bad AI is a bug and that might get fixed, I think they're overly ambitious. Do you know what I think their fix for that is going to be? Stop people like reworking the system or fucking with the system so that they can see cops spawning in front of them. I think that's all they're going to do. I think they're going to cover the seams. And hide the seams.
Yes.
I don't think they're going to rework an AI system. I genuinely don't. I think when nothing in that game.
No, but hold on, because you see, I think that they do have an AI system, but it's just not implemented. And it just needs to work.
I think that's possible, but I think that's more. Your take is more speculative than mine.
Yeah, sure.
But see, on this, I agree with both of you because I agree with Chris that there's probably a more intelligent system that's supposed to exist and that they've already been working on. But I think his point about the fact they couldn't get it finished, so they went with like a more simple system, I think is probably right because can't imagine. Or to be fair. Maybe they hadn't got that far down the road, but like we said, that's easily like a year off. But I also think you're right, Jamie, in that if Witch has anything to go by, they will cover the seams. Because when I had game-breaking bugs in The Witcher, when those were quote-unquote fixed, they weren't really fixed. They were brute forced. Yeah. So, for example, I had a character that was like an NPC that was physically blocking me from finishing a mission. So it meant I couldn't finish the mission because he was in the way. That bug didn't get fixed in the sense that NPC then didn't block me. It just had it so that there was like almost like a cutscene that let me kind of walk through him. Then he glitched out and then appeared where he was supposed to be further down the line. So they brute forced it. And that's what I think they'll do in this.
You see it all the time with like live games and games that get updated regularly. The quickest way to fix a bug is to take out the thing that's creating the bug, not to fix the bug.
Yeah.
Like the amount of times you play Warzone, it's like, oh, they took out every vehicle in the game. And they just left it that way for a month because that was the quickest way to deal with it in the short term. Like I think we're going to see solutions like that. I really do.
But the reason I think the DLC will still drop in 6 months is because from reading the press release they had, or the meetings for the minutes and listening to it, in my mind, it was a group of people who were like, we fucked up. We wanted to get the game out when we shouldn't have done. We should have waited. But however, actually, there's a lot of PC players have been thinking it's okay and it's pretty good and it's got a good score and it gets blah, 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 blah. And we're going to have most of those bugs fixed by February. And in my mind, they're then going, so we can still get our DLC out pretty much on time, maybe a little bit delayed. We can still get this done by this. I think that's what they'll do. I think it won't be fixed and it will be better.
I think guaranteed it won't be fixed, but I really don't think you're on the right track there, Jonesy. Even if PC sales accounted for 59% of what they sold and the console was 41. But even if they said to themselves, and even if it was true that PC, that 59% of all players were entirely happy with what was happening, it's still poor form to release paid content for something that's
100%
affecting 41% of the player base.
100%.
Not to
and
say
it's not
that,
even 41%. It's not even 41% because they've said in that thing they say the reason that it's 59%, 41% is because PC gamers often pre-order, console gamers nowhere near as much. So they were expecting a lot more sales to happen after the release, which is now obviously they're going to have massively reduced their sales. But you might be looking at basically 50-50, like if not yet.
I think
like relatively.
I think to give you the benefit of the doubt, Jonesy,
I still think they'll do it.
No.
Pure DLC,
It's
no.
bad
Maybe
form.
maybe
It's
what
bad
they
form.
do. No, I think it's bad form if they do drop it.
But do you know what else is bad
Jonesy.
form? Do you know what else is bad form? Releasing the game they released.
Well, yeah.
Why do you think they're going to act any differently?
But
No, because they've been caught with the egg on their face now. They've been caught, whereas before people still thought that it was okay. But now, because they released a game at a point where everyone was still super hyped for the Messiah of gaming, right?
Yeah.
But now the Messiah of Gaming has come out and he's a false prophet and people are fucking got the pitchforks out. So that's the difference. Now look, I think they'll do their best with the February patches and then maybe they'll do a small content drop with fucking hairstyles and that's probably all you're going to get by way of DLC for a very long while. That's my honest take. And I think if they had to release a large piece of DLC, even if it was for free, it's basically saying to the people, hey, I know you still have bugs, but guess what? Instead of using the resources of our company to fix these bugs, we made this extra content for you. And it's like, hold on a second. That's so bang out of order.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with you, but I kind of feel like we've already seen this company act in a certain way and get it wrong with regard to timings and get it wrong with amounts like resource required to fix stuff.
Okay, but by your own admission that they've been so bad with all of this that they've delayed the game 3 times, that you still expect that they say now that they can fix things in February.
But they're saying that.
No, I know they're saying that, but you're believing them.
They will.
No, I'm not believing them. I said I don't think they will do that. I think they will try, and their intention is that will happen. But I don't think it will happen. But that's why I still think they'll release the DLC because their schedule will still say.
So hold on, you think that they're gonna try and fix all these? When are they going
to make the DLC?
Yeah, hold on. You think that they're going to try and squash all these bugs for February update, okay? So February update comes by, and you think that they're going to fail with that to squash a majority of the bugs, right?
Not fail. I think they'll succeed to a degree. Like it will be less buggy. The frame rate will be better, but I don't think they're going to do what they need to do.
Okay,
what we would agree is
at the end of February patch, the game will still not be in a great
as what it should be.
Peak physical condition.
Peak physical condition.
And you're telling me that after that, you think they're just going to be like, here's some content, guys.
Yes. Hey guys, no, I couldn't disagree more.
Yeah.
Do you know? I'll tell you why.
I think we've lost the plot on that one, James.
I'll really quickly try and tell you why. Because in my mind, they're looking at an 89 critic rating.
Yeah.
they've even said in this meeting, which is mental, where if you look at people that have played 10 hours or more, they rate it an 85, like for the actual players, which is insane because you're looking at people that like the game and saying what a surprise they like the game.
And people that haven't encountered too many bugs to have been playing it for 10 hours or more.
Exactly. The refund thing is really dodgy because it's a very good game underneath, and I don't think many people would have refunded it because they will be hopeful that it will get fixed in short space of time and be great. There will definitely be people who refund it, but there won't be that many people as a percentage, if you like, of the 8 million we know. I think it's up to 10 million now. People who have bought the game. There'll be a fraction of that so they'll be walking away with 10 million people's money. They'll be walking away with an 89 critic review on Metacritic. It's still going to go down as an incredibly well visualized game, and there's a whole load of great stuff to have in it. And when they take that to their financial meetings and they look down the barrel of like marketing and stuff like that, that's what a lot of games would pray for that. And if you then tell me that they're not going to turn around and go, right, DLC inside, because we can make more money.
I think that the communication so far, both the stuff that we were meant to be privy to and the stuff that we weren't, suggests that they have they were not able to predict to the degree to which they have had backlash. I'd
be interested to know how real the backlash is on the wider world.
Look at the email that got leaked that CD Projekt Red CD Projekt Red employees got sent, where they basically said, "Hey, we fucked up. When your bonuses this year won't be based on Metacritic. We're gonna give you it anyway, and we're sorry for underestimating the degree to which we were asking you to do stuff that wasn't possible." Like, that was an internal email that got leaked, and they sent that round. Also, a bunch of the quotes that we have pulled and that we're going to be talking about and are talking about now were from a board meeting, but it wasn't just any old board meeting. It was an emergency board meeting with investors, an emergency one.
Yeah,
like
it's like Among Us. They fucking smacked that button,
Right? Yeah, with investors on the line, being like, "Hey, what the fuck is going on?" And like, here's the quote. Here's one of those quotes from that board meeting, that emergency board meeting. "The cost of patching the game is irrelevant compared to what we have at stake at this moment. There is no question about it." When talking about like CD Projekt Red and their reputation.
Yeah.
"We definitely want to fix the game. We made a promise to gamers and we will be doing everything to stick to it."
Yeah.
Yeah,
which is what we all hope for, right? We all hope that they stand
Co-CEO
by that.
Adam Krasinski acknowledged that by not showing the last gen versions, the company knows it's eroded consumer trust in its reputation and now needs to work to regain that. Quote, "That's why our first steps are solely focused on regaining those two things," referring to the last gen versions' performance and their fucking company reputation and consumer trust.
And you don't regain that by just releasing DLC for breaking
You don't say that to an investor in your company at an emergency board meeting to then do something that actively dissuades people from giving them any further trust and like degrades their reputation further. That's why I couldn't disagree more.
But we know that is all well and good, but at the end of the day, they're going to be looking at certain metrics in order to judge what is success, what is failure. And most investors aren't going online to watch YouTube reviews and stuff for a game.
You said you listened to it. There are investors in that call who ask questions about things based on what they have seen and read and heard online.
But most of them didn't. Like most of them,
some of them did.
Some of them absolutely did.
So you think
the AI one was specifically like one where I was like,
do you think the co-CEO was lying to investors in his company? In a public board meeting, then
I don't think
then you can't. Then you have to concede that it's very unlikely that paid DLC that would erode consumer trust would come out in June.
No, because I didn't say that I didn't say it would erode. I said that the metrics they will use and what they will say to their investors and how the company looks, I don't think is the same metrics that we would be looking at to see whether they've eroded trust.
I think even people having a good time with CD Projekt Red would be disappointed to see paid content coming out for that game if the last gen console versions were not in a better place or were not in a good enough place.
But see, I think that they will be in a better place. I just don't think they will be where they need to be. But they will get to a point where I think they can argue, we've done it.
The idea that
We've done enough. Do you know what? We've done enough.
The idea, with as hot as this game has come in, with everything that's wrong with it, the idea that DLC will be ready in the same turnaround time as it was ready on The Witcher 3 is outrageous to me. Absolutely outrageous.
I think that's what will happen. Because because let me give you another. This is another quote.
Hold on. I'm feeling another wager coming on.
How are they going to?
No, there's no wager here. Let me give you a quote. Let me give you a quote.
$5 grand.
Let me give you a quote.
$5 grand.
Let me give you a quote because
$5 grand.
You were talking about
$5
whether
grand.
or not.
Let's put money on it.
Shut up.
No, because
let me give you a quote on the same thing
me.
you were talking
doing the
about.
thing, and if I ask you to put your money where your mouth is, you'll probably back away.
Sorry, you broke up. Say it.
Okay, don't worry.
But no, I think the DLC will come out in the same sort of time because
okay, let's put money on it then. Let's put money on it.
No, I don't want to put money on it.
No, because
do you know why? Because last time this happened, you won by bullshit decisions from our audience when you were wrong anyway.
Bullshit decisions by our audience. Wow.
Anyway, there's an interesting thing because you said, do I think that they were lying to their investors? But there was an interesting quote from that meeting which I don't believe, and I would be interested if you believed it. And you are effectively saying that you believe that they wouldn't lie to their investors based on blah, blah, blah. Okay, so this was the quote. With regard to not showing the console version, we've actually shown console footage, but never on the last-gen consoles. The reason is that we were updating the game on last-gen consoles until the very last minute, and we thought we'd make it in time. Unfortunately, this resulted in giving the reviewers just one day before release, which was definitely too late, and the media didn't get the chance to review it properly. This was not intended. We were just fixing the game until the very last moment. So you believe that they wouldn't say anything untrue to their investors, so you wholeheartedly buy that quote.
Yeah,
no,
I
think they're talking around it. I think they're talking around it.
That's not talking around it. That's saying the reason no one got the game any earlier than that was because they just couldn't get it to them. That's literally what it says. There's no talking around it.
No, okay, I don't believe that's true, but I don't think it's the same kind of lie. If that makes sense.
Okay. I'll tell you what. I'll give you this. I'll give you.
Hold on. How does that in any way relate to the fact of what we're saying that?
Because Jonesy's basically trying to say, look, here's evidence that they've already lied to their investors, so why wouldn't they just do it again?
Yeah, but I've missed the kind of connective strand here to this and DLC.
Because part of my argument hinged on the fact that they have promised to investors that they are more keen to regain consumer trust and rebuild their reputation than they are make money, for example, and that's one of the reasons why I don't think they'd release DLC before the game is fixed.
I think there's a difference.
Jeremy's saying this meeting is full of complete truths, and I'm saying, well there's one that ain't true.
I'm not saying it's saying it's complete truths.
I think there's a difference between saying something to effectively your boss to cover your ass, and then there's another thing of saying something that is a truth to the predicament that your company is in.
I suppose the reason I disagree with you guys about the DLC is because when we talk about making the relationship better with their consumers, you can never make all your consumers happy, right? So we're talking a percentage. What percentage of people that play Cyberpunk are going to be happy? And it's not going to be 100%. So then we have to agree it's somewhere between 100 and 0. And that's when they'll say, we're at a good point, so now we can release the DLC, blah, 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 blah. I think they believe they will get to that percentage point of making people happy in time to put the DLC out and do whatever they're going to do.
What if I were to put it to you that CD Projekt Red are more concerned than ever before about the percentage of people with whom they are losing reputation and trust who haven't bought or will not, or haven't yet bought or will not buy Cyberpunk 2077, and actually their reputation away from consumers and like active purchasers of their game has never been lower, and people are looking at them as a company now and say, and I believe this is already a fact, The Witcher 3 and its reputation on launch and the way in which it was delivered and the way in which they worked in it didn't affect the anticipation for Cyberpunk 2077. I think Cyberpunk 2077 has already done irreparable damage to whatever CD Projekt Red have do next in terms of their next major AAA release. Would you agree? What do you think about that assertion?
I don't agree it's irreparable. if I had to, if like I would say, because like Witcher 3 was broken in some ways and it didn't damage their reputation at all, and some of those fixes were not very good. I would say it's maybe more akin to like No Man's Sky, whereby it was a joke, right? When it came out, people were like, and a lot of stuff I didn't agree with that people were saying was they were like, this game lied. I didn't agree with a lot of that coverage that people put out, and now Hello Games are in the position whereby people think they are an incredible company who stand by their game and all this free content, and it's taken years, right, for them to get there. So I don't agree irreparable, because I think they can repair it. And they can say to themselves, their investors, everyone, we will repair it. We're almost at a time of maximum potential for CD Projekt Red, because at this point they can say anything and we have no idea what the truth is. Yeah. Can they get there before their next big release or the DLC or whatever? Oh, yeah, of course they can. Like, I think.
Yeah, I agree with Jonesy. I don't think it's irreparable, but it's definitely an uphill battle.
It is definitely an uphill battle for sure. For sure.
Anyway,
but the weird thing is though, they've got so many. Like, compare it to No Man's Sky. They already have 10 million people that have bought the game. They've already got an insane number of critics saying it is the best game ever made. Like, you've got the bullshit of people saying that on PC it is basically perfect. It's like, no, it isn't. It's still got all the problems we've talked about. Like, they've got the fundamental game problems. People are already lying to themselves
Jonesy,
about it.
Let's just put a pin in that kind of thing and move on to, because we've got a lot to talk about here and not a lot of time. Speaking about the OpenCritic, right? So OpenCritic included a warning to viewers. So OpenCritic themselves took it upon themselves to put in this warning saying that the game is significantly different across platforms, and that OpenCritic think that CD Projekt Red intentionally hid performance. That is kind of mind-blowing to me, that this kind of aggregator would put up this kind of disclaimer.
Yeah, you expect it from commenters on the internet to accuse them of intentionally obscuring. For what it's worth, I think they intentionally obscured they intentionally avoided the issue of letting people see the last gen console versions of this game.
Can I read the warning just so that everyone knows?
Yeah, please do.
I was going to say, you don't expect to hear it from an outlet like this.
Well, because they're meant to be. Sorry, Josie, before you get into it, because OpenCritic as an aggregator are not meant to have an opinion at all, right?
Yeah.
They're just meant to be like as objective as possible and be like, hey, we're not getting involved in any of this. This is what the critics think, and this is what the users think. And yet they're kind of stepping in as this kind of like, I don't know. I think it's pretty cool personally, but at the same time, it does kind of feel counter to what OpenCritic should be all about.
I see what you mean, yeah.
But anyway,
almost like an objective viewer sort of thing. So their warning says, please note, this game has significant disparities in performance, player experience, and review scores between PC, next-gen consoles, Xbox One, and PS4 versions. The OpenCritic team and several critics suspect that the developer, CD Projekt Red, intentionally sought to hide the true state of the game on Xbox One and PS4, with requirements such as only allowing pre-rendered game footage in reviews and not issuing review copies for PS4 and Xbox One versions. This notice will be taken down in February 2021. Oh, that is brutal.
Which is when CDPR said that the patch will come out. Interesting. Yeah,
that'll be the third patch. That'll be the third patch. Fourth patch.
But that's what
patch.
It depends.
That's what they're saying, that will fix it. That would have.
CD Projekt Red, for what it's worth, are referring to the January patch and the February patch as patch 1 and patch 2, and the thing that came out last week and the thing that it will come out this week as hot fixes.
Yeah. But anyway, going on from that, fellas. So, CDPR, from their side, trying to do some damage control, I guess, they put out the statement saying like, hey, you know what? If you're not happy with the game, it's all cool, bro. Just fucking click that refund button, bro. It's no problem, bro. You'll get your money back, bro. Everyone's going to be happy, bro. You can come back later when you're cool with it, bro. And then Sony fucking stepped in and said, you fucking what?
Pretty much.
But then CDPR, I'm right in saying CDPR then issued a statement saying if you have problems getting refunds, you can contact us directly.
Oh yeah, totally. But dude, yes. So then they're going to be backlogged with all of these refund requests. Potentially, we don't really know the extent of the refund situation. But because if you bought it from Sony's store, right, and Sony are refusing to give you a refund, then you need to go around to CDPR, and CDPR need to fix this issue. Whereas if Sony agreed to it, it's just a refund process. It's very simple. It's very straightforward, right?
I don't think Sony have a leg to stand on. I would be interested to see if someone took it, especially.
But it's their policy, and do you mean their policy doesn't have a leg to stand on in general?
No, because I think you come up against a few things with game returns and things like that. You have this notion of like Steam's, for example, if you have played the game for less than 2 hours, or you've done less than whatever, then you can just refund it, like for no reason.
I believe Sony have a similar thing with the playtime. I think it's also like a 2-hour window.
Sony's is brutal. Sony's is if you download it, you are fucked.
Wow.
That's part of the issue. Like for what it's worth, aside from Cyberpunk, Sony's like the PSN's refund policy is fucking abysmal.
Yeah,
but anti-consumer.
You get difficult with this because I think the Steam one is ridiculously good. They don't need to offer that.
Yeah, but
they
hold
don't
on.
Need to say
you're forgetting one very important thing. That Steam refund policy only came into effect like 2-3 years ago, as we know it now. It didn't used to be as like all encompassing as that.
No, I'm saying it's as it is now. Like I'm talking now.
Yeah.
Okay, as it would apply to games now.
Yeah.
Like that to me is you don't need to do that. The Steam go further than they need to go, right?
Yes.
Sony don't go anywhere.
Yeah.
Because they say if you've downloaded it, which I can understand because it's software, you could download a game, not play it, rip it, copy it somehow if you knew what you were doing, and then you could ask for a refund.
So I can read you just a brief thing from Sony's PlayStation Store. After purchasing this type of content through the PlayStation Store, you have 14 days from purchase to request a refund. If you have started to download or stream the purchased content, you will not be eligible for a refund unless the content is faulty. And for anyone wondering, faulty in this context, Sony have been telling people because CD Projekt Red have pledged to deliver patches, it does not quantify as faulty.
Wow.
So that's why I say that's bullshit. And I would love to see what would happen if someone took them to court in a country like the UK with pretty strict customer fairness laws and things, because it is faulty. It is fundamentally broken. Yeah. I've played it for 17 hours and have had 12 crashes. And I'm playing on a PlayStation 5. If we downloaded.
Sorry, James. I guess people also, if they've bought it on a credit card, they could potentially get credit card protection from that purchase as well.
But then wouldn't that be the credit card company agreeing that it's broken? Like,
yes. So in other words, you're bypassing Sony and you're bypassing CDPR, and you're taking it up with the credit card company.
Because how can you say, like, so I think someone in our comments said, which was like quite true, you couldn't go and buy like a pair of trousers or a suit jacket, and then you get it delivered and it's missing an arm, and then they go, but don't worry, because in a couple of months we'll send you the other arm.
That's a good point.
That would never happen. Like the fact they can say that this doesn't constitute faulty because they've said they will fix it. It's like, okay, I'll buy it again then from you in 2 months' time when they've fixed it.
I agree.
Okay, but look, regardless, Sony is point blank refusing. Sony are being cuck boys, okay? But then we move over to CDPR, who now have to take on not just their GOG refunds. I think Steam are just dealing with their own, and I don't know what Xbox's situation is, but they've got to take Sony's refund situation as well, which means that they're going to get this massive backlog. So let's say you as an individual, you apply for this refund, you say, Sony's fucked me, I need this sorted out, and CDPR are like, cool, I'm just going to take this this piece of paper, this ticket that you put through, I'm going to put it at the back with everyone else's tickets, and you know what, by the time you get refunded, the game will probably be fixed.
So someone, I did see someone on the Reddit thread who said that they had applied for a refund, got denied from Sony, went to CDPR, and then had a reply saying, here's your refund, and it was store credit for the Sony store.
Oh, weird.
Which is like, that's not the same as getting a refund for something broken.
I mean, but in this fucked up situation, you take what you can get, right?
Well, I don't agree. Like, if you want to get more than that, you have to stick by your guns. You can't accept...
I think the issue is for me is that the original statement that they put out 3 days ago now, this is CD Projekt Red.
Yeah.
The wording of it, and maybe you guys might disagree, but I think the wording of it implied that this was that they had spoken to either Sony or Microsoft or both of them and almost got this cleared as like, hey, this is an exemption. Clearly something is wrong here. You guys can go and get refunds. For them to put out a statement that flew in the face and knowingly flew in the face of Microsoft and Sony's refund policies and advised people to go and ask for refunds on PSN and Xbox when they knew that on PSN, for at least, on 99% of cases would not happen, was just the worst kind of damage control, because you're just shooting yourself in the foot. They knew it'd come back to them. And for what it's worth, there was some news broke yesterday that implies that Sony have already maybe lost their temper a little bit with CD Projekt Red behind the scenes. Did you see this?
No.
So basically, there's some journalists, obviously, who in the process of trying to cover this story are basically putting themselves in the shoes of consumers, trying to get refunds on different platforms. One of them is a guy from the Vice Gaming's site, Patrick Klepek. He's been doing this, and one of the things he did was he reached out to the email that CD Projekt Red put in their original statement, which was, Help me refund at cdprojektred.com. For what it's worth, they said, please use the system of PSN or Xbox, but if it's not possible, contact this one. So he contacted that one.
Yeah.
They replied saying, hey, this is confirmation that we've received your assistance request. We're going to get back to you no later than the end of 2020.
Yes.
But they say, in the meantime, if you own a digital copy on Xbox, visit the Xbox support article for details on how to refund. So, hey, here's how you go about this if you're Microsoft.
If you own Xbox, okay,
Xbox, yeah. If you own a digital copy on PlayStation, please wait for us to get back to you. I.e., CD Projekt Red's official wording on this has now changed from, actually, if you bought it on PSN, please don't go and try and get a refund on PSN, because maybe a lot of people have tried to do that, and it's making PSN look bad, and Sony have reached out to CD Projekt Red and said, hey, why the fuck did you tell hundreds of thousands of people to try and apply for refunds you knew they wouldn't get?
Yeah.
See, I almost think it's a little bit, I don't think it's because they knew they wouldn't get them. I think that it's almost like the damage control backwards, right? Because if people apply for refunds and Sony give it to them, then that's one thing, because those people off their own bat have gone and asked for refunds. But if they put out a statement saying, go ask for refunds, guys, then obviously loads more people are going to ask for refunds. So Sony are then probably going, why did you give people this idea?
I mean, they told people directly.
That's what I mean. They told people directly. So, if you were Sony, you'd be annoyed, and you'd say, on
the other hand,
what are you doing? Don't tell them.
The Vice report, the reporter who has been talking to a lot of consumers in this matter, seems to imply that whatever CD Projekt Red has done has worked, because apparently the majority of people he's spoken to that have gone through the PSN process are more angry at Sony than they are CD Projekt Red. So if
do you think that was the?
I don't know. I'm not going to say either way. But if this was an attempt to try and put the responsibility for refunding on someone else who they knew wouldn't do it, and that people would get angry at them, it has worked.
All I can say about the situation is, thank God I got it on PC. Not only because of Steam's refund policy, and not only because the PC version seems to be a lot more stable, but funny enough, guys, I was scouring the dumpster fire that is the Cyberpunk game r/Cyberpunk game subreddit, and man, there are some interesting things there. But I did come across one article that and this is absolutely fascinating to me, okay, saying that they found an error in in Cyberpunk 2077's config file, right, relating to data pools, so like how the game views your resources and uses your resources to run the game. And it turns out that the config file is the exact same on PC as it is for base PlayStation and base Xbox, meaning 3 gigabytes of RAM and, or is it, no, 1.5 gigabytes of RAM and 3 gigabytes of video memory, like video RAM, your GPU. Whereas a PC should obviously scale with what your hardware is, and certainly should not be that low. Right, so he had this guy that posted this article had a bit of a guide on how to go into your config file and change things, and I tried it out, and I can confirm that it is there. So what seems to have happened was that the game shipped with an incorrect configure file, which may be the root of some problems for some people on their PCs. Now, for what it's worth, For what it's worth,
You can't see me grinning because I've just got to come up with a conspiracy theory about this.
Here we go.
You and me
love
are thinking the
conspiracy
same
theory.
thing because there's another game that famously got accused of the thing that you're probably thinking of, Jonesy.
All right, well, hold
Okay.
on. We'll get there, okay? So I went into this config file, and I can confirm that the column for PC is the same as the column for Xbox. It's just the same column for PS4. I changed the values, and I personally did see an increase in frame rate of about 5 to 8 FPS, which is decent when I'm like, early to mid 30s to begin with. Some people have said that they've done the same thing and it hasn't worked. It seems to benefit people with older hardware than like RTXs, as an example. And some people are claiming it's just a placebo and it just has to do with where you are in the game and how it's loaded and this, that. Whatever it may be, for what it's worth, I found value in it. You might want to check it out. But yeah, madness that it would ship with a wrong config file for PC. But yeah, go on, Jonesy. What's your conspiracy?
Yeah,
Hold on. Should we call
I
the
know from
uncovered?
Jamie's tone.
Should we call
I
the
know that
uncovered
Jamie-
boys?
From Jamie's tone, I know that I'm probably talking about what he was gonna. I was gonna say what he was thinking.
Let's hear it.
Is that right? They are in a bad position, marketing, PR wise, everything. Okay?
Yeah.
They need a couple of wins before they get to January, February, before they get some big patches out.
Okay.
So what's one way to get a win? And as editors, we've probably been there and been a bit cheeky and done this sort of thing before.
Yeah.
What's to say that they didn't purposefully cap some of those things in the config file so that they knew they could patch it in a few days' time?
Yeah.
So that people who would see an uptick in frame rate and would go, good on CDPR for fixing this stuff. They're getting on it quickly.
Maybe.
As an easy little win
But then,
and a cheeky little...
okay, the thing that I have to say to that is then why didn't they include it in the 1.04 hotfix?
Because that already came out, like when the game came out, basically, or
No.
too soon. No, but they need another one. I'm saying they artificially created another hotfix.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay,
I
that's-
think that whoever's role it was to configure this was probably fucking burnt out and didn't know what they were doing, and they just did the wrong fucking thing.
Yeah.
And I don't think CDPR noticed and has taken this Redditor to kind of be like, by the way, guys, you may have shipped the game with the wrong config file. It's fascinating. But yeah, Jamie, what were you going to say?
That's not quite the exact same conspiracy as I was thinking. I was
okay.
thinking the one that another equally as controversial open world hacking game struggled with all the way back in 2014, and that was Watch Dogs. Which, for anyone that doesn't remember, Watch Dogs appeared to have a very similar issue where the PC version appeared to have lots of very easily tweakable settings that, almost every consumer could follow any guide and do, that would dramatically improve performance and visuals on the PC version.
Yeah.
And the conspiracy theory at the time was that they had intentionally reduced the quality of the visuals and the performance on the PC version of the game to diminish the amount of disparity between the PC version and the console versions to try and essentially eliminate some of the backlash that might have occurred. I don't think that's the case in this situation, because I think if CD Projekt Red had delivered the game they delivered, but it was even better on PC than it currently is, I don't think console gamers actually get... I think console gamers are more angry about the version of the game they got in isolation, like as opposed to it compared to the PC version. So I don't think that's the conspiracy theory that fits the bill in this case. But it is interesting if they looked at it and they were like, do you know what? We can maybe make the Xbox One and PS4 versions look a little bit better by making the PC version look worse. Saying, no, look, every version's on fire. But ultimately, 5 to 8 frames per second performance difference is the only win you're getting here. And so I don't...
Well, it's not significant. Although, I do have a top tip for people on PC, and this is got no kind of like config file tinkering or anything. I turned the population density in Cyberpunk down to its lowest, which has given me a decent bump in frame rate. Because my thinking was, I'm not fucking interacting with any of these NPCs that are just walking around and you can't interact with anyway. What's the fucking point of having them there?
Yeah.
It's like when you get down to it and actually
it's
playing
a visual
the game.
thing, though, isn't it?
Yeah,
No, but even worse, it's an annoyance because they bump into you.
I will say also, Chris, for you and for anyone listening who's interesting, Digital Foundry have put out a video. It's like an optimized settings video.
Yeah.
And what they do is they go through every setting in the graphics kind of menu, and they'll look at like low, medium, high, and they basically look at the visual difference, like what's actually happening when you change it versus the performance gain or increase.
Yeah.
And so like there's certain things, for example, where they were getting identical FPSs on low and high. So they'll be like, hey, just stick to high. And other ones where like visually there wasn't a huge downgrade for going to low, but there was a performance bump. So
yeah, I think Cascaded Shadows was a major one to kind of turn low.
I kept hearing about cascading shadows.
Yeah.
I haven't looked into it further. But
a little tick in the column for my conspiracy theory, they did it on purpose, that I just thought about was that fix came out. So I saw it, I think the same day you saw it, Chris, on the Reddit thread, but it had already been out for like a day or so when I saw it.
Yeah.
Why didn't they just put it out straight away? Like a patch to specifically just change the config settings for PC users.
Wait,
I don't think it's that simple. They've got to go through processes and stuff before they release something.
Have they officially fixed it now? No. Like if I download... No, they haven't. Okay.
So that's what I'm saying. Because if you were them and you'd done it by accident, right, and it was an easy win in your column, and it's so simple to fix, why wouldn't you super quick have got someone to knock up the correct config file, pumped it out through PC users specifically, and then if anyone then went onto their own config file to have a look, they could say, oh, that was not true. That
I get what you're saying, and yeah,
why would you wait?
I don't know why you'd wait, but there must be a reason. Whether it's a case of you don't want to admit that kind of big easy mistake, or maybe it's a case of saying that they wanted to just group it in with a bunch of other fixes, or maybe it's a case of saying that any fix that they do needs to go through a little bit of a process to make sure that it's ready for delivery. Because in theory they could have read that Reddit post, because guaranteed the people involved in fixing the game and bugs are scouring the Reddit.
I hope so.
The Reddit
to learn what they need to do.
And you'd think that as soon as they came across this and they'd go and cross-reference it with what they've done, they'd be like, oh shit, yeah, that's an easy fix. Let's fucking ping this out right now. I've got the config file right here. But
here you go. What's going to happen is they're going to fix it, ping it out, and everyone like Chris who's changed their config file is going to have broken it, and they're all going to have to re-download the game.
It'll just overwrite.
We'll
Cloud
see.
saves.
Be interesting to see what's happening in that next hot fix. I don't know. If they don't fix it in that, then there's something.
Yeah, they said another fix is coming like before the 21st, I think, of December.
They said within 7 days, and that the meeting was on the 24th. So yeah, it should be by the 21st. Yeah, fix. It
will be interesting. It'll be very interesting. A little bit of an aside here, not necessarily for CD Projekt Red, but CD Projekt, the kind of the holding company, parent company. Who own goodoldgames.com, GOG. And interestingly enough, they were going to release a game, Jonesy, this will interest you. They were going to release Devotion on GOG, or GOG, as us GOGers like to call it. So Devotion, as you should know, Jonesy made a video on it as one of the scariest horror games you'll never be able to play because it was pulled from sale because of a whole big...
On the channel, check it out.
Because there was a whole big controversy with China. And literally, so the game got pulled, and Red Candle Games, the makers of Devotion, the devs, have said that, hey, it's going to come out on GOG. You can buy it in, however many hours or whatever it is. A couple of hours later, GOG
I want to say that it was literally 10 hours before it was supposed to go out. They tweeted about it, and then it was like 2 hours before it was supposed to go out that it then got...
Yeah.
That GOG then tweeted.
Yeah, so GOG came out and said, about that Devotion game by Red Candle Games. No, we're not going to do that. Their reasoning was they listened to player feedback and have decided to pull it from the store. So at this stage, you got to understand, when Red Candle tweeted out that it was going on GOG, it had its own... store page on GOG. You could go there. You could it's all the info was there. Then GOG pulled it, and then they gave that reason of player feedback. But that player feedback is not player feedback. It's Chinese government feedback. Because
I don't know about that. I actually saw. So I read two opposing opinions.
Okay.
And do you want me to put them both to you?
Hell yeah.
And see which one you.
I mean, I know which one I'm kind of going down on, but yeah. going down.
Was because I thought that, and then I read a different one, and I was kind of intrigued. So one of the opinions is that the gamers of which they talk about were Chinese players, or whoever you like, government, whatever, who basically said, if you release this, they put this game out, this game that said all this horrible stuff about the Chinese government and what's his name, Xi Jinping. Then we will come down on you and we will rate you really badly, and whatever threats it could have been that they said to force them to not release it. That is like what a lot of people I think have taken from this, that they were bullied into not releasing it.
I don't take that. I don't take that. That's not how I read it. Yeah, I read it as the Chinese government saying that effectively, if you want your storefront to still be available in our country, this is what you need to do.
Right. So so that's kind of, I'm putting those two together.
Yeah.
The other one, which was on The Guardian, which was quite an interesting take, which I hadn't thought about, and I don't know enough about China and stuff, was that GOG is actually one of the sites which kind of flies under the radar in China because it's too small to warrant a legitimate official Chinese webpage and stuff, so gets away with having being a storefront that gamers can use in China despite not being official.
Sure.
And actually what could have happened is that a lot of gamers who use GOG and are GOG supporters basically said to them, if you do this, the Chinese government will forget not looking at you because you're small, and they will shut you down in China, and you are where I get my games from. Please don't do this because it will be terrible for gamers in China. And actually that to me suddenly was like I don't know now which one is more likely.
Actually that could be something.
Also worth noting, this tweet might be have something to do with GOG's decision, might have nothing to do with GOG's decision, but Daniel Ahmad, ZooGX on Twitter, tweeted 23 hours ago that Cyberpunk, basically that Cyberpunk 2077.
Hold on, reboot, Jamie, reboot.
I know, because it's one of those things where you're going to say it, you're going to read it and say it at the same time, and now I don't know which bits to say and to read. But basically, gamers are accessing it via Steam and the Hong Kong version of PSN version of Xbox Live, even though that they don't have a license to sell it in China at the moment. And he is noting that CDPR is building its presence in China. And they've invested in South Chinese localization. And because the Cyberpunk theme is popular over there, it's actually doing surprisingly well. "Quote unquote, off to a strong start." Written.
So they wouldn't want to.
Sorry, I kind of botched that one. It's just, it was like 3 tweets that said some things, and they seemed to contradict each other. And I was like, "Am I about to read something that contradicts its point?" But basically, what I was saying is, while GOG, whose parent company is CD Projekt, have made a decision that could be seen to some to have appeased Chinese authorities, so Cyberpunk 2077, a game developed by CD Projekt Red, is also getting off to a very strong start in China.
So there may be a correlation there. Because why would you jeopardize one of the biggest AAA releases of the year for a small indie horror game?
Right. Why would you?
Why would you choose to release said small indie horror game a few days or a week after your biggest release of 8 years? They've had 2 years to put devotion on GOG.com. Like, what a strange time to decide to do it.
This is why. Can you please get on board with my theory that we are living in a simulation?
I think you might be right. I think you're right. I think we are in a simulation.
Maybe. I don't know.
Should we? Did you want to talk about a few of these quotes from the meeting that they had?
I mean, I think we've covered a lot of them.
We have covered a lot of them. I think there was a couple that we missed out that I thought were interesting. So one of the main one for me,
they're all lies anyway, James. It doesn't matter.
They're all lies.
I don't think they're all lies, but
it's corpo scum propaganda.
Not necessarily.
Yeah. No. Did you read that one post on Reddit? It was like, actually, Cyberpunk 2077 stayed 100% true to its promise because there's no more corpo thing imaginable. They're getting fucked over by $1 billion corporation.
Yeah.
How Cyberpunk is that?
Yeah, it's so true though. I mean, fuck it. We said it a couple of podcasts ago, right? It's, if you have any delusion about the fact that it's just billionaires taking fucking, taking advantage of the.
Arasaka.
They are Arasaka, yeah.
They are Arasaka. because it's okay, but this to me rang true, and I think this was quite an honest thing to say, and I'm glad they said it right, which was that after 3 delays, we as management, the board, were too focused on releasing the game. We ignored the signals about the need for additional time to refine the game on the base last-gen consoles. Like, that to me was like, at least they've said, yeah, it was our fault.
Well, yeah, of course it's true. That's them admitting they fucked up. Like, I just wish.
But they could have passed the buck, I suppose, is what I'm saying. Yeah, I'm kind of glad they
But
didn't
isn't
put
this
it
almost like
fair.
that fucking feedback sandwich bullshit?
the shit, the compliment sandwich where you go compliment, piece of shit, compliment.
Yeah, it's what it is, right? But the other way, it's like mea culpa, like, oh shit, we were wrong, but here's how we're gonna fix it. And it's like, don't worry. It's almost like
here's how much money we've made you while we've been wrong.
yeah, it's like saying you're gonna die of cancer, but I'll tell you what, your eyebrows are looking fucking on point.
If I was them, it's because they also mentioned COVID in this meeting.
Yeah.
I would have gone harder on COVID if I was them. If I was trying to save face with the investors,
Yeah.
because you would have thought it would have more of a bearing, because they said one of the problems they had was testers who were third-party testers couldn't play the game from home because of COVID, and they couldn't go in the office.
but hold on, because that's weird to me, right? Because if I were a tester for one of the most anticipated games, not just of the year, but like fucking multiple years in the running, and you'd say, "Oh, Chris, are you at home? Do you have an internet connection?" I'd be like, "Yes." Can you game test Cyberpunk 2077? I'd be like, "Nah, sorry, I've got the COVID."
No, see, they said their own internal testers did play the game from home.
Yeah.
And they were testing from home. It was the third-party testers who usually go somewhere to test games that because those places were shut,
But,
they couldn't go direct to the testers.
But that's still a failing on them.
That kind of rings.
It's a
But
it's a failing on them for a different reason.
It's also like COVID has played the entire year. I'll concede that. But also, like, this game was meant to come out in April. Like, COVID wouldn't have affected them that deeply in Poland until March.
Yeah.
And then
after
they decided they weren't going to hit April, they bought themselves an extra 8 months in delays.
Yeah. At a time, Jamie, as well, when they were going to release a game that wasn't even going to be playable on a next-gen platform.
Very true.
Yeah.
There was an interesting actual thing from a dev that sounded really plausible to me. He was talking specifically about this, and he said he didn't work for CDPR, but he said, look, this is how game development goes, is that games are unplayable until like the last couple of months.
It's that whole hockey stick thing, right?
Yeah. We've been there with video edits, right? Like, how many of us have worked on edits that are fucking... They look like a bomb has gone off for 6 days, and in the last hour or two, it somehow comes together and becomes a video.
Yeah.
It's that thing where people will say to you, can you just send me what you've got now of the video so I can look at it? And like, no, because I don't build it second by second.
Yeah, if I send it to you, you're going to have an absolute fucking heart palpitation.
That said, while we all agree that game development is complicated and extremely messy, so there was one interesting sort of bit of dialogue, a bit of back and forth on Twitter this week. I don't know if you guys saw it 2 days ago, in fact.
Yeah.
One games journalist shared a post from Reddit that from the subreddit, in fact, and said the eventual article from Jason Schreier about the development of this game is going to be a very, very interesting read. For which is something I agree with, and for what it's worth, no matter what you think of Jason Schreier or his journalism, there's no denying that no one else has the access to companies and employees that he has to be able to tell the stories that he has.
Yeah.
And when he's written articles about game development studios in the past, like he's right. He does his stuff. He's a good journalist in that sense.
Yeah.
He replied to that saying that he said, his tweet says, got this email in April 2019. So that is, again, a year and 8 months before the game came out, 2 months before Keanu Reeves got on stage to even announce the release date, and he shared a screenshot.
Yeah.
Dear sir, allow me to write this short mail to thank you for the series of great video game articles and the book you've written so far. They're all a read-through tears kind of experience, but I really appreciate that you do care so deeply about people who work with video games and not only about games themselves. Although the subject of this mail might sound clickbaity, as a former employee of CD Projekt Red, then something redacted that presumably identifies the sender of the email, I felt that there are hundreds of parallels that could be drawn between the story of the rocky development of Anthem and the story of the rocky development and even more rocky to become development of Cyberpunk 2077. At times, I felt I could just replace the studio name and game title and it would all look so similar, almost identical.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mental.
So an interesting little bit of homework for anyone. Go back and read Jason Schreier's Anthem article and do exactly that.
Yeah, just replace the
BioWare
words
for CD Projekt Red and Anthem for Cyberpunk, and see what kind of an article it is.
Wow.
But what's interesting about that is that was, and like you said, that was a year and 8 months before the release. You can only imagine that it fell off a cliff from there and got much
again,
worse.
like the guy that I pull it up again. The guy says in his own words, "quote the story of the rocky and even more rocky to become." Development of Cyberpunk. This was a guy who, by April 2019, had left CD Projekt Red and said development is rocky and it's only going to get worse. He knew it then.
Right.
It is so mental, man. But like, you know what?
I love it though. I love it.
No, I know. But you know what the
talking about
saddest
it.
fucking thing is? In 2 years' time, when another massively hyped game is about to come out, and we're just going to go through this cycle all over again. There's going to be people defending the fucking crunch that is inevitably going to happen. The game's going to come out in one way or another, and people are going to be like, fuck this. Then there's going to be the embargoes. Oh, why did they embargo that? Why did my pre-orders? Fuck off. All of it. You know what? Just let's unplug the simulation right now, fellas.
Can I say something that's going to piss people off?
Yeah.
That if the Cyberpunk and CD Projekt Red experience has taught us anything,
yeah,
you could think about what they want. You can think whatever you want about the way they make games, how long it takes them to make it, the way they support them, and the way they extract money from them after they've come out. But we are never allowed to talk shit about Rockstar ever again. Because the fact that Red Dead Redemption 2 looks like what it looks like, runs like what it looks like, and does what it let you do on base consoles, and it did it 2 years ago, is even more embarrassing for Cyberpunk 2077. And I know, Chris, that it wasn't your cup of tea. Yeah. Like, completely get that. And it won't be lots of people's. But Rockstar's work in terms of the product they put out is scary when you look at what other companies
Last of Us as well. They had all of their controversy, but the game launched and released in pretty much a pristine condition. I will say this though. I disagree with your sentiment because you know what? It's not that you can't talk shit about Rockstar or Naughty Dog ever again.
Dude.
No. It's more a case of it should be more of a level field, which is almost the Jason Schreier way of looking at it, right? Where it's like crunch should never happen anyway. And I'm not really talking about crunch, like fuck crunch, that's bad. No, but even the scrutiny of a company, I think because there's degrees,
okay.
Right? Okay, so
I guess I'm more talking about the scrutiny of the product. Then I should say.
Yeah, the scrutiny of the product, fine. The scrutiny of the product,
and scrutiny of the company as it relates to the reception of the product, as opposed to the how it got there.
Potentially, yeah.
I don't know. All I know is that Rockstar over 2 years ago created and released a bigger, more detailed, more intricate, more ambitious, more dynamic, more everything open world than CD Projekt Red have created in that time.
I mean, that's complete bullshit, but okay.
No, it's not. Dude,
I would agree with a lot of it, except for maybe the ambition.
Name one element. No, how in any way, shape, or form is Cyberpunk's open world more ambitious than Red Dead Redemption?
Hold on.
This Red Dead Redemption 2 is a game where you can interact with any NPC.
You're being weirdly ranty. Hold on a second. Okay,
you're right.
Okay, because ambition.
Because I'm excited.
No, and I appreciate it, but you got to understand what I'm saying. Yeah. Ambition and reality, they are separate. Okay, what they had the ambition to achieve with it far outstrips what Red Dead was trying to achieve. However, so the ingredients that they were trying to use like super top shelf ingredients, and their souffle fucking flopped. Whereas Red Dead Redemption, they were still using top shelf ingredients, but just not as much. But the end result did not flop.
If you want to argue that the only thing Cyberpunk's open world did better than Red Dead Redemption's was that it aimed higher and fell further from that aim, well, you can take that prize and walk away. Like, I'm not going to argue that. You're arguing your own defeat.
But hold on, because you're saying like ambition.
You're admitting
like,
that the only thing that CD Projekt Red were better at Rockstar at was fucking up. Great, yeah, I agree.
Like Red Dead is an incredible game, and they made that game amazingly. It's phenomenal. Like Red Dead Redemption 2 is a tour de force of gaming.
Yeah.
Okay. But
I don't think I could compare what CD Projekt Red have tried to do in Cyberpunk 2077 to what Rockstar achieved in, because there's like Cyberpunk is much more complicated in thousands of ways than Red Dead Redemption 2.
In terms of when you boil it down, I started this comparison on an open world conversation.
Yeah.
No, it's not. No, it is not, my friend.
It is.
Do you know the reason? Do you know the reason NPCs can't disappear when you look away from them? In Red Dead Redemption 2 is because NPCs are actual people with routines and AI that you can interact with and converse in some way, shape, or form with every single AI NPC in that whole fucking game. In CD Projekt Red, in Cyberpunk, they fucking disappear when you look away from them because they're cardboard cutouts. Yeah. They don't exist.
I think, as Chris said, the problem...
Cops disappear out of the... Like,
but that's the flop Jamie.
Red Dead Redemption 2.
That's the flop.
No, you want to talk about aiming high. Red Dead Redemption 2 is a system where you accrue bounties based on the actual crimes that you're doing. They're accumulated, and you can leave certain areas, and your bounties remain, and you have to go back and pay off your bounties, and if you don't, you'll be wanted in certain areas, and people come after you. CD Projekt Red is a game where if you get a wanted level, which you can do by standing too close to a police officer for 3 seconds, policemen will just spawn in behind you unless you're in a car and drive far enough away, because policemen can't get in cars because there are no police chase because there's no traffic AI. Please don't tell me that CD Projekt Red or Cyberpunk 2077's open world has anything on Red Dead Redemption 2's. It's embarrassing that you think it's
No. In its state, you are absolutely right. In fact, I'll take it a step further, okay? And let me ask you this, Jamie. Would you place...
That felt so good.
Oh, it was bullshit, but it felt great, I'm sure. Like it was complete
like
bullshit.
I said, weirdly ranty.
You're fucking delusional.
Weirdly ranty.
No,
okay, so hold on. So, and I know the answer to this, but you would place Red Dead Redemption's open world above pretty much anyone else's, right?
It depends on by which metric you want to look at it. I think for my personal
as a generalization,
taste, it's up there. Like there are some angles you could take where they might put Breath of the Wild's open world above Red Dead Redemption 2. So
let me give you this hot take from the vaults of Chris Joanides. Okay?
I love it. Let's hear it.
When I'm finished Cyberpunk, okay, and I want to get into an open world game, I'm not going to play Cyberpunk. As interesting as Night City seems to be, it's not actually interesting, right?
Yeah.
And this is in reinforcement to your weirdly ranty tirade that you went on.
It's excitement. It's excitement.
But I would rather, as a pure open world, from my point of view, okay, so I didn't like Red Dead Redemption, so I'm not going to go into that. And I wouldn't necessarily relate Breath of the Wild as a similar kind of open world. I think it's maybe just a bit too different. But from an RPG perspective, I'd rather go to Skyrim or I'd rather go to Fallout 4 than go back into Cyberpunk. The only thing that Cyberpunk has going for me, and you've got to understand that for me, it's very high on the top of the pile, is its main storyline and its main missions. Because they are very nicely crafted, and they're crafted in such a way that you don't need to interact with the police AI, as an example. You still have to fucking drive around the fucking atrocious car things. But, like, just as an open world that's enjoyable and shit to do, like, if you're talking about how people... And I get really angry and butthurt myself when people disparage against what Bethesda do with their open worlds. But they craft some fucking damn fine open worlds that you want to spend time in. I don't want to spend time in Night City because there's nothing to do. Even though you open up that map and there's fucking a million icons everywhere.
Yeah, it's a game that learned frustratingly few lessons from everything that we've been communicating about what we didn't like about open world design from the last decade. Totally. Everything from icon bath maps to cousin let's go bowling phone calls.
But I will say this though, Jamie, to your point, is what I'm getting at. Is the idea that they put forward and they've been getting a lot of flack actually because the release is lacking a lot of these things that they said were going to be included in the game, such as a corrupt police force, okay, which there's no corruption in the police force, and a dynamic wanted system, which there's nothing dynamic about it, and, you know, NPCs that you can interact with and everyone going about their routines. Nothing of that actually materialized. But if you look at what they wanted to do and the scope of their ambition, I think it is maybe the most ambitious. And probably And probably it's what you said. It's, hey, if it's a case of they aimed higher and fell further, yeah, 100%
And that's
right.
the thing. But when I hear you say that, my first thought is that great, but what you're saying is an active criticism of Cyberpunk and CD Projekt Red, and nothing else.
Yeah, totally.
Which is why, okay. I think we agree on that. It just seemed like a weird thing to say after what I'd said.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think for me, I'd really quickly, the fundamentals with Red Dead Redemption 2 was they knew what they were doing. They knew the hardware. They knew the system. They made that game fit that perfectly, and they did a great job. And they squeezed every ounce of power, graphic fidelity, everything out of that.
Yep.
And that's exactly what they should have done. Mm-hmm. CDPR did a Star Citizen. They went absolutely insane with scope and size and everything. Like, you compare the two open worlds, and you might as well say that most of Red Dead is empty in large part compared to Cyberpunk, because Cyberpunk is not. It's not possible to fit it into. Possible to fit it into that world.
You're doing the same thing that Chris did. It's like, imagine if Avatar 2 comes out and it's actually a really bad film. You wouldn't sit around here and say, yeah, but James Cameron really did try to make a big film.
I'm criticizing CDP. I'm criticizing CDPR.
Then how come when I went on my pro Red Dead Redemption 2 rant in terms of the open world and how dynamic and interesting it is, you laughed and said, well, you're wrong, but okay.
I used more choice words than that, but I won't use them now because my kid got home. But no, the reason I said that was because if you compare, if you look at the world, right, you look at the number of NPCs, you look at what's going on in the world, you look at the size of the world, you look at the number of elements in the world, you look at the pixel dynamics, and you look at all that sort of crazy stuff. There is so much more going on.
No,
in the high-end version.
There isn't.
On a literally from a graphics side of it and from a density side of it of elements. There is.
No,
most of Red Dead is open landscape.
You argue about visuals, then that's a conversation we have to have, because I think they have different styles. And I think
I'm talking visuals.
Why are you talking about the visuals in an open world? I don't care how good fucking Cyberpunk looks. There's nothing interesting or dynamic or deep about that open world. Not about the NPCs, not about the way you can interact with them, not about the way the emergent way that side content is revealed. So who cares?
We agree on that stuff.
Okay, then how come you said you used your choice words about me being wrong after a rant that I did that had nothing to do with visuals at all?
Because it did. Because
it didn't. I didn't mention graphical fidelity once.
But it did. I
talked about the police system. I talked about the way NPCs behave, and so on and so forth. And now you're saying I'm wrong because Cyberpunk looks better.
No. I'm not saying you're wrong because of that. I'm saying because the way in which the world that has been crafted to house those elements in Cyberpunk is obviously much broader in scope and scale in every way, and they failed hard. And that's why you end up with a world which is not as deep, doesn't have the NPCs, doesn't have the police integration. The fact that we all know that they were going to put all of that stuff in and they messed up.
Yeah.
I think, and the game doesn't work on current gen, is because they didn't do everything that Rockstar did that made Rockstar create the one of the best games you're ever going to see on that platform, because they knew to work within their limits.
But there is a weird thing here, right?
I'm feeling really confused right now. I feel like I went on a rant, got told I was wrong, and now everyone's telling me I'm wrong by agreeing with me.
I think you were wrong in some ways for different reasons. Like, I think when you talk, and you saying scope and scale doesn't really matter if you don't get it right, but I think it does matter because you can see in Cyberpunk and the visuals. Okay, the visuals is an element I use for that.
I'm going to go one step further then. I'm going to dip a toe in the water. Red Dead Redemption 2's world does have a bigger scope and scale than Cyberpunk 2077's. And
you don't even have conversation options in Red Dead. Like, you have zero option when it comes to conversations.
How many of those conversations are you having in Cyberpunk 2077's open world?
What do you mean? No. Every side quest, every geek job is an open world conversation.
But you can make Chris's dream version of Cyberpunk 2077 with a far more linear design, and that conversation system remains. So you can't slight Red Dead Redemption 2's open world.
I'm not slighting Red Dead's open world.
You're trying to present a case that CD Projekt Red has a bigger scope or scale by saying it has conversation options. I don't want conversation options if NPCs disappear when I look away.
But the reason it's hard to square is because you're right in so many ways.
Yeah.
But the reason you're wrong.
That's the end of the podcast, Chris.
But the reason you're wrong as well is because the stuff that I've done, having barely scratched the surface in the buggy mess that is Cyberpunk 2077, has already had 1,000 times more in content than Red Dead Redemption.
Can I tell you the dirty secret,
So wrong.
Jonesy?
So wrong.
Can I tell you the
So
dirty
wrong.
secret?
It's true.
No, can I
It's
tell you?
not.
Can I
It's
tell
so-
you the
it's-
dirty secret, Jonesy?
Go on.
You know, you're saying you scratched the surface.
Yeah.
Do you know what's below that surface?
Not a lot.
Nothing.
No, that's not true. There is a lot.
There's nothing. You know what? So we had a small break while you walked away for a second. But what I was saying to Jonesy is it's really weird, okay? Because if I look at a game like Fallout 4, where I'm just walking, I'm not doing any missions, and I see there's a fucking wooden ship at the top of a building, I want to go there. And I know that when I go there, there's going to be lots of shit for me to see and do, right? But in Night City, there's not many great points of interest. Like all of it looks really flashy and cool, but there's not something like if I'm just standing somewhere, there's not something that says, hey, come over here and explore, right? There's that issue. But then even if there was, the next issue is if I go there, there's nothing to do. And this is the weird dichotomy of what Cyberpunk is.
When you say there's nothing to do, what do you mean there's nothing to do?
There's nothing with substance of doing. I'm not saying like help the police and just shoot at everything. Right?
Yeah, like the example we gave is, yes, you might find a group of gang members standing around next to their cars that you can shoot and then you'll be done with.
Yeah, and you walk a block away and they don't follow you. But what I'm getting at is the dichotomy of this game is I love it for what it is and I hate it for what it isn't. Right?
I suppose maybe I'm wrong. I find it difficult in some ways to square what you guys say with my experiences because you take that map, which isn't, and I've played like a small section of the map, right? I've just been in, is it called Walton? I can't remember what it's called.
Watson.
That small area.
Watson.
Right? There's Wilson. There are so many. So I've been playing that game for 17 hours, right?
Yeah.
And all I've done is like 3 main story missions and probably about 20 side quest missions, and I haven't even left Wilson. And so when you say like, oh, Red Dead Redemption 2 had so much more stuff, I'm like, it's really hard for me to square that because I've already done so much and every way of doing it is buggy, it is glitchy, it is definitely not perfect. And there's a lot of like, you can't do your hair, you can't get tattoos.
Yeah.
The clothing mechanics don't work that well, all the stuff we've talked about. But there is so much crammed into a small area. If I extrapolate that out across the whole of Night City that I haven't even visited.
Yeah, there's loads.
It is rammed.
There's a great volume of
it's
content,
absolutely
but
rammed with content.
This is why I'm kind of like
It's
getting a bit of a headache because when did I bring up volume of content? When did I bring up volume of authored content? You're defending Cyberpunk's abysmal...
No, Chris said there's nothing to do.
Okay, great.
There's nothing to do.
I wasn't in that conversation. You're defending Cyberpunk's
nothing...
abysmal open world because of the volume of content. When I played Red Dead Redemption 2, I would occasionally not do main story missions, most of which I liked, by the way. Some people didn't like them. That's fair enough. But I would occasionally forget to do them because I would spend 4-5 hours of game time going out because I would want to go out and explore. And do you know what happened when I went out and explored? Dynamic, emergent gameplay events happened, some of which were incredibly interesting. I found rare animals that I hunted, and I skinned them, and I maybe kept their meat because I could take their meat back to my camp so I could feed my actual NPC friends. Or maybe I'd keep their fur so I could take it to the trapper and make actual clothes out of them because you can wear clothes that, you know, without having to walk around in hot pants and a cowboy hat because they have better armor statistics. I would try and accumulate money. Maybe I would rob a bank.
But
Or
I feel
maybe
like
I'd
you
rob
think
maybe
we're
I'd rob a
insulting
bank or something to make money.
Red
so that,
Dead. But
and you know what else was? Do you know what else was happening while I was out and about exploring this open world? My hair was growing because I knew I could get it cut when I came back. I was also getting dirtier, and people would comment on whether or not I was dirty or whether or not I smelt bad because NPCs know you're there, a fixture in this open world, and they interact with you, and you can interact back. And if you don't like the fact that they're calling you smelly or dirty, you can go and have a bath, and because there are things to do in this open world that aren't shooting people or running away from people that can't chase you because they don't even have the artificial intelligence means to chase you. I'm
going to pull a really unfair card at this point.
I just think there's
no
argument whatsoever.
I'm only going to pull it because I do think it's relevant, and I'm not just trying to be a dick, but I kind of struggle to take your.
I know what you're going to say now. I know what you're going to say
because you haven't played it.
Yep, I know you.
I'm worried that most of your opinions come from Reddit, like the R thread on Reddit of people criticizing it, and you are right about everything about Red Dead Redemption 2. It is it's probably my favorite open world game that I played on that system. But
that system being the one that people are also playing Cyberpunk 2077 on.
Yes, because I don't think this game is playable on the PlayStation 4. I don't think it's playable. Yeah. So that's what I don't think I'd have any fun playing it on the PlayStation 4 either.
Well, that's your homework though, Jonesy. You have to before the 21st and that next patch, you have to stream it.
But do you know what? It just makes me want to hear what you think after you've played like 20 hours of it, because I would be so surprised if some of your opinions didn't change.
I was telling Jamie, it's different watching someone go through playing Night City and going through and deciding what to do, and it's different you being there in the street and thinking, where am I going to go? What am I going to do? And how am I going to kind of perceive it? And because obviously, Jonesy, you and I have had very similar experiences, but have come up with very different outcomes or outlooks of the open world. I think we are very much aligned on the main story, and I guess what I would classify as the main side quests. But in terms of like the minor side quests and just the open world in general and the emergent, the non-emergent gameplay that is around there, it kind of breaks me. But anyway, guys,
like my favorite thing about the whole game at the moment, my favorite thing hands down is the minor side quests, which aren't even proper side quests, like by far.
Or the gigs,
because they are literally, you have no idea what you're going to do. The character that you meet will be well written, will be unique. You probably never see them again. You will have these ways of doing that mission of getting to meet that person. You might not even be able to do it at the point in the game you're at, and it will develop from there. And I suppose my issue with putting it against a game like Red Dead, which was a fantastic, phenomenal game, is those settings in that game were on one path, right? You could only follow that in one route. You got there, you did the thing the game was written to make you do. And Cyberpunk says you can go all around doing...
I understand.
Jamie's also forgetting that there are about 15 people for every 2 hours that need snake poison sucked out of their dick.
Yeah, some of that stuff did repeat. Although the thing I'm not forgetting is the fact that I feel like I've spent the last 20 minutes talking about the qualities of Red Dead's open world, and people have tried to argue against it with the visuals of Cyberpunk 2077's open world, and now the quests and writing and characters of Cyberpunk 2077. No one's arguing with me about the point that I'm making. You're all just telling me other stuff that the game does.
No, but this is all in the open world. So what Chris was saying is empty.
But it doesn't have to. It doesn't. The writing or the characters that you just praised just then aren't reliant on the open world and vice versa.
Yeah.
So they're not. It's not an argument for or against it.
Yeah. Jamie's right because
the experience,
interesting as they are, they're self-contained.
And the little adventure I just took you two on, I specifically avoided mentioning how much I loved Red Dead Redemption 2's characters and writing.
Yeah,
and how
there's a real non-mission. There's a non-thing.
He's doing it again.
No, I'm not. I'm trying to think of things that fit what you're saying. So, for example, emergent gameplay. You have a neighbor in Cyberpunk called Barry.
Yeah.
Right. Barry.
How's that emergent?
Because he's walk past his door. You walk past his door, and the police are knocking on the door. And if you walk off, nothing happens, right? The police just bang on his door. If you stop and talk to them, you get into a conversation about the fact that Barry was a policeman who they haven't seen for weeks and they can't speak to him. If you then go back later on and talk to Barry, which you don't have to do, Barry, if you say the right things, Barry will respond to you. If you convince him, he'll open the door. You go in, have a conversation. You then leave. If you then don't ever say anything to Barry again, you'll go there later on and Barry has killed himself because of his friend dying.
That's great.
Right? But if you listen to what Barry said, you drive across the city, you go and you look at this statue of his friend who died, you then go back to Barry's place, have a conversation about Barry, Barry won't kill himself. And you will then have a mate in Barry who lives near you. Those things are easily as emergent as my favorite one in Red Dead, which was when you walk past the prostitute who accidentally killed the guy in the room and you agreed to go and move his body and feed it to the pigs. Like, that was wicked. And she goes, psst, psst, come down the alleyway, I need your help. And it was incredible. That to me is the same level as...
Yeah. I guess the thing is, it's also then becomes a question of like housing, and that is a very interesting and dynamic example of, you know, what could be considered a bit of emergent quest design. And I guess what happens is that for me, In Red Dead Redemption 2, those events take place in an open world that is consistent with every other concept and mechanic that the game has outlined. And if you sometimes in the main story of Red Dead, if you try to push the edges or the fringes of what the game wants you to do, it doesn't like it. And that's a huge problem that Rockstar need to work around for their future releases. CD Projekt Red and Cyberpunk 2077 will almost certainly have done that better. But like one thing that I don't like about the Cyberpunk example, having not played it, as you said earlier, is that I don't know if I like that the fixture for that dynamic event is as inflexible and in the state it's in. And what I mean by that is, like, let's say, for example, my approach to the Barry situation was I was going to shoot the cops in the head when I saw them questioning him. Which is something that someone might do. Probably not, but someone might do.
You probably, I'm sure you could.
I then am immediately in the same open world. I'm in Night City and I'm interacting with the cops with the same mechanics that we've all outlined over the course of this podcast and why they don't work. Like Red Dead Redemption 2, outside of the story missions where it's like, hey, you walked 6 feet off this path, start again. Red Dead Redemption 2 doesn't have those problems because the open world for me is consistent. And
it's better crafted. It's much better crafted.
Yeah.
Well, fellas,
hold on. I'll say this.
Yeah.
Just before we finish on this. The CD Projekt Red have tried to force a current gen game onto previous generations and it's failed. I would say Rockstar, if they release Red Dead Redemption 3 on current gen, for quality open world design, emergent stuff, or everything we've talked about, they will blow whatever CDPR have tried to do out the water, because the quality will be, I think, incredible, and it will work on every level, and it will be one of the most special things.
I'll be honest, Jonesy. I think games companies need to stop. Just stop with the scope. No, honestly, stop with the scope creep and trying to one up. Like, yeah, sure, sort out your graphics.
I agree with you.
But
it's mad.
Who said that Red Dead Redemption didn't have enough stuff to do? No one. So why'd you need to do more? Anyway, guys, we can argue about this forever, but we've got to put a pin in it. And I think with the last 20 minutes, we have to have our code word being RDR 2077.
I like it.
Okay, yeah, that works.
All right. Well, with that, guys, thank you so much. Yeah, bit of a marathon there at the end. Wouldn't be a super show without a bit of a weird rant.
50-second episode, 1 year, we brought it full circle with rants and arguments.
Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you so much for sticking by us. If you've been here from the start, or hey, if this is your first one and you've made it this far, thank you so much. Don't forget RDR 2077 down in the chat to let us know you've come this far and you are a true Super Show super fan. And with that, I will say we'll see you for the next year or something.
Yeah, and I guess I don't even know. Do we say have a good Christmas? We haven't figured that stuff out.
May you have a good holiday break.
I'll say Merry Christmas because I'm wearing my Christmas Master Chief.
Fuck it.
Christmas
well, we wouldn't know, Jonesy, because you babbed it. So
no, I know.
We'll say Merry Christmas, although keep your eyes peeled over the festive period because we may well be popping up again as you spend time with your families. And if you need an escape, what more reason to subscribe and make sure notifications are on than that?
We may be around. Anyway, thank you so much for watching or listening, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.